any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say it's even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. 'Cause all I see is the tower of dreams, real love bursting out of every scene. Days go by, it's the bigger love of the family.
And with that, we're back. We're back. What's up? What's up, everybody? Let me bring everybody on. Can't forget Tamaya, Dennard. Hey, what's up? We back. Hey, what's up, everybody?
Back. What's going
The
on?
Barbarian with you, surrounded with the crew. We got Tamaya, Dennard with us. Hey, Tamaya, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Can't complain. Can't complain. Hold on. We got Brother Dre with us. What's up, Brother Dre?
What's happening, brother Nathan? Good to
I feel
see
like I'm
everyone.
playing. Good. Hey, good to see you. I feel like, what's that show, Hollywood Squares or something? That's what it feels like. We got TNT with us. How you doing, TNT?
How y'all doing? Hey, everybody.
And my brother in this endeavor, Kevin Aldridge, the voice of reason. How you doing, sir?
Happy Friday to everybody.
And we got a special guest with us, Cam Hardy. He's the president of the Better Bus Coalition. Cam, how are you?
I'm well. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Glad that you could make us. You are now officially a part of the crew, which means I'm going to add you to our email list and hound you incessantly to come back on and share your insights with us. But I appreciate you nonetheless. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about what's been happening in the city of Cincinnati. But before we do, I gotta say what's up to the chatterati, aka the folks in our chat room. Shahira writes, afternoon crew and everyone. Diane writes, that was cute. Oh, you're talking about the intro. Thank you so much. Andrew writes, love the intro. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Brenda writes, good afternoon, Nathan, crew, and family. Good to see everybody. Good to see you. Yeah, please do link people who you think might like the show. They might like it. They may not get into it. Either way, they are welcome. And whatever your viewpoint is, as long as you can articulate it, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. You can join the crew and mix it up with us. It gets heated sometimes. It gets emotional. It gets confrontational, but we always end as friends and come back as friends. And I hope you can join us with that same spirit in mind. Hey, Eloise, how you doing, Eloise? Good to see you. I just love saying that name, Eloise. Nat's in the house. He writes, TGIF, Nate and crew. Good to see you. Let's get straight to it. Let's talk about what's been happening over the last less than a week. There's been a lot of talk about whether the police chief of Cincinnati is going to be asked to resign. That's what's in the media now. Police Chief Thigi. Is she the first female police chief? Does anybody know in Cincinnati history? First female police chief. She's a white female, if you don't know. There was a shooting on downtown Fountain Square. And then since then, there's been a lot of movement. We now have.
You lost your audio, Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan, you cut out.
Can't hear you, Nathan.
Oh, there it is. How about that?
Yeah, you're back.
This program is just doing whatever it wants to do today. Where was I? So there's some
left off at Fountain Square.
Fountain Square. So there was a shooting. 2 individuals were injured. As I understand, the perpetrator is still being has yet to be apprehended. They're still looking for him. There's a video that's circulating of the person actually pulling out the weapon and firing. I don't know any more details than that. What was reported was there was some kind of verbal altercation, and then you see in the video somebody pulling a weapon. Since then, Mayor Avtab, this is an election year, and I do think that's a factor in what we're talking about, has cracked down. He's cracking down. He says enough is enough. This can't happen. And he is suggesting all sort of things, including, some are suggesting that perhaps he's targeting bus riders. And that's where Cam comes in, Cam. And you wrote a piece in the Inquirer and where you said, among other things, quote, to suggest that the solution to crime downtown is to push bus riders somewhere else is to criminalize the very people who keep our city running. So I want to get your thoughts, Cam. I appreciate you being here. What's going on? What do you think about what the mayor had to say, and what do you want to say?
Well, thank you again for having me on. It's awesome to be here and to chop it up with my people. I see some familiar faces in here, so what's up to y'all? It's good to see y'all. I haven't seen y'all out, but I've been kind of low key lately. Just getting ready to get married, so I've just been so busy.
Oh, congrats!
Just it's crazy. So
hey, before you start, I hear some kind of I hear something.
Yeah.
I hear some kind of. Does somebody have some kind of something on? Are they on a?
Maybe it sounds like a notification or something.
Yeah, it sounds like notifications to a phone or a computer or
here.
something. No, not sure what that is. Okay,
Don't
all
have
right,
any-
go right ahead. Yeah, I still hear it. It's somebody. Maybe you've got some other pages open on your laptop or something. That's what it sounds like. Like maybe your Facebook or something is sending you
I
notifications.
don't have anything up here. I'm
No?
good. I
Okay.
just
All right. Well, go ahead, sir. What were you saying?
yeah. So you know, I read. I've been hearing about what the mayor has been doing. First off, we found out about the Government Square bus stop area D, kind of on in a fly by night kind of way, which really concerned me because I'm like, you know, well, where did this come from? Prior to all of this hoopla over Fountain Square, we have been talking to the mayor about making it safer at Government Square. We all agree that there are some issues down there that just should not be happening. And so, you know, I have been trying to work with the mayor and with Metro on just kind of enhancing safety. You know, I had brought some things that I had saw, some concerns I had saw to the CEO, you know, and then we saw that council had unanimously passed a loitering ordinance, which I support, you know, in perpetuity, but I'm kind of questioning why we have to pass that if, you know, we should be already engaging people. You know, we should already been talking to people about, you know, these kinds of things. And I don't want to see mass arrests at Government Square or anything like that. But I do think that engagement is key. And I don't really see that happening from any side of this. You know, the mayor's area, Metro, CPS. You know, thank God for Iris Rowley being down there. But outside of that, there's really no engagement. You know, and I think that's the biggest thing. It's not what goes on; it's the fact that no one's checking it, no one's saying anything. You know, and so that's where we come from. You know, I respect the mayor, I respect the mayor's office. You know, most of y'all know me to be a pretty reasonable person. You know, I call out on both sides. I just think that lack of engagement and lack of having us at the table when you're trying to make decisions about the buses, that's where, you know, I kind of get concerned because, you know, my mother rides to Route 78, and that's one of the buses that now you got to go 3 blocks over just to catch it. You can't catch it at Government Square. And so it is, you know, affecting people. And so, like, you know, that is why we got involved, because we're concerned and we just want collaboration and we want a real conversation around making it safe at Government Square. I don't think that banning bus stops and, you know, mass arrest is necessarily the solution. But whatever the solution is, we want to be a part of the table.
Hey, Cam. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on, Kevin. I'll get you right in. Just real quick. So, is the mayor right? Because it seemed like he was implying that people who are taking the bus downtown are a part of the problem.
Yeah, we disagree with that. We asked the mayor, and we asked the media, quite frankly, to ask the mayor, where's the data on that? You know, it's funny. I feel like I remember the previous mayor saying the same thing, that there was criminal elements bringing people into downtown. I don't really buy into that. Sure, there might be some teenagers that are doing some activities and then they're getting on the bus. You know, it might coincide a little bit, but I don't think that the data is there to suggest that bus riders are criminals, or quite frankly, that Government Square is that unsafe. You know, and so that's where we're coming from on that.
Hey, Cam, I'm gonna wait to, you know, give my commentary, but I do want to ask you a question. For those who may not have read your piece in the Inquirer, you brought up this notion of data. You presented some very good data, I think, in your piece about why moving, even if you wanted to entertain the idea of moving Governor Square or the transit hub someplace else, why that's just not necessarily economically feasible, as well as it won't improve safety in any way. Kind of talk about that for those who have not read your piece.
Yeah, so Metro has actually been studying this for about 7 months, and in February they concluded a study that they submitted to their sorter board, the board that oversees them, and it basically said that this would add $20 million per year to their budget. It would increase times for not only passengers, but for the frequency of the buses. So if we wanted to keep a bus that runs every 30 minutes, we got to add 3 more buses to the fleet. So, I mean, who's paying for all of that? The study also showed, and I'm not done posting the study, I have plenty more, but the study also showed that moving it to the Riverfront Transit Center is not safer. It's enclosed, and it adds at least 10 to 12 minutes to commute times for bus riders. So, it's adding more stress to my day as a bus rider, to the elders as a bus riding the bus and things like that. So, yeah, we try to approach these things with data, and we actually use the data that Metro put out themselves. So I wish that the transit agency would stand up for themselves a little bit more and show this, say, hey, this goes against what we're talking about, but we're happy to do it.
I think this is Cam. It's good to see you, and congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
I think this is just really this is what government always does. So I really feel like if ABTAB had a real opponent, he would be in trouble, because this is very much a knee-jerk reaction, and it's no better than what Trump is doing in DC. And we can say because he's local, he's here, it's different, but it's an overkill. The ultimately the challenge is, until the city is ready to really go after concentrated wealth in this city, until we're willing to go after the challenges that create the problems, the poverty, the disinvestment, we're not ready to tackle those things. And so the low-hanging fruit is police, increasing police. One thing I do stand firm on, and I'm proud about, and there's no disrespect to the police officers that I know, is I wasn't very supportive of always giving the police so much money, because what the data also bears, you cannot arrest away the issue. And the challenge with coming down on youth is that the person who shot into the restaurant was not a young person. He was a 24-year-old.
Right.
So I don't know if we're just not, I mean, and I think you're right, Nathan, being that it's an election year, it absolutely has everything to do with his reaction, because what we need to be doing is what you named, Cam, and not just throwing out stuff and seeing, throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. I knew whether the chief, somebody had to be the fall person. Somebody has to be the fall person. And ultimately, that's what, sadly, I'm not here to endorse her or say she's doing a great job. I don't really know what type of job she's been doing. I don't pay that close of attention to her and her role. But somebody has to be the fall guy. And this election year, it cannot be ABTAB. It can't be the city manager. It can't be council who continues to vote to misplace money and put money in the wrong places. Those are the real issues, not bus riders. And essentially, you are criminalizing bus riders. You can act like, and you can pretend, you can throw water and then hide your hands, but you are really saying that it's the buses that are causing this issue. And in that respect, that makes ABTAB no better than what's going on in DC.
Mm-hmm. I have to say with Chief DG, I mean, in the last couple of months, I recall seeing her out on the beat, like on 5th Street. I was going to one of my clients doing my own business, and I'm looking down, and it's the chief walking down the street. Like, she's not only is the police out on the beat, seems like more, but she's out there too. So I think it's just real unfortunate. Just the reaction. I think the bigger cause of like why we're seeing more gun violence is the easy access to guns, which is almost like a state issue and something that we have to be prepared for anyway, because anytime you have lax gun laws, you have an increase in homicides. And so, but going back to the data, I don't know if we're just about, surpassing our homicide rate before, or if we're there, or if we passed it, or if we're still not at the same rate like years before. But we have to still analyze the data to really see, is the measures that are being taken actually impactful. And so like everyone has already said, these knee-jerk reactions that are just like responding to the politics, we know that it's a whole lot going on as it relates. Now, when you respond to it, it's like every crime is going to be elevated to a level where it's just like you're noticing it every day, when really, crime has always happened all the time, every day in Cincinnati. If you have that Citizens app, your app is ding, 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 all across the city and everything else. And so that's nothing new, but with it being the election season, political season, and people using people's tragedies as an opportunity to, leap their political careers, this is what you get. And so I just wish people would be smarter. They stick to what they know, stick to the problem solving agents that you do have, and support the police for the job that they are doing. It isn't like they're not out there right now. If we're still having issues and we supposed to have an influx of more boots on the ground and everything else, then what else can be done? Calling in SWAT and everything. Is that something that we can really do every day? Is that something that we want to do? Do we want to look like that? Do we need that for our city? I think the business community is applying a lot of pressure to the administration. And so, but you can't take away the voice of the citizens, the bus riders, and the community. So all of that, all the stakeholders need to be at the table when we're making these decisions.
Yeah. So I have no surprise. I have a lot of thoughts about this situation and everything. And I'll start with this, that the brawl changed everything. The brawl changed everything. That's what we have to recognize right here. Yes, it's election season. Yes, it's politics, but the real politics came in the wake of the brawl, and everything that you've seen since then, the acceleration of certain things and the politics that have taken place. Yes, we've had crime incidents and things that have taken place that are serious, but these things have been elevated because of the politicization that happened on a national level that has put pressure on the leaders here locally, the mayor in particular. And what we know is that when politics enters the scene, logic, reason, data goes out the window, and it becomes all about the politics, all about the optics. And that is everything that you've seen taking place in this city since the brawl. It's been all about optics. It's been all about trying to look tough on crime by any means necessary, throwing it up against the wall to see what works. And what I don't like, first of all, about this notion of moving the bus transit hub, it's the same thing that we talk about all the time. It's like, oh, well, let's just move the problem out of downtown. If there's a problem, let's move it out of downtown and just move it to someplace else and make it some other neighborhood's problem, rather than actually trying to address the real issues. A reader of the Inquirer brought this up. It's like when the city was having issues with crime in the Skywalk, their suggestion was, instead of trying to actually solve the problem, tell people not to use the Skywalk and then eventually get rid of it, right? Like this is what it does, is like, instead of actually coming up with solutions, which admittedly are hard. Like if this was easy to get our arms around these issues, we would have solved them a long time ago. But to some of the points that Tamaya brought up, dealing with the economic issues and some of the other root causes, they're tough issues because you're wrestling with people who don't want to give up certain levels of power, so it's not that they're necessarily hard problems to solve because they're unsolvable. It's because certain people don't want to give up their portion of the pie and move in ways that make these issues fairly easy. So that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a throw the spaghetti up against the wall approach. I agree with Tamaya, and we've said it many times, that if AFTAB had a more difficult opponent, that he would be in some real trouble right now, because his leadership has not been, in my opinion, effective or where it sort of needs to be. I kind of had to chuckle about them calling the police chief back from her police conference in Denver, telling her she had to come back immediately when AFTAB kind of finished out, his little couple extra days on his little family vacation before he came back.
That's what it was all about.
He didn't come back immediately, but the police chief had to come back immediately. And we can say, like, should the police chief have been at a conference anyway in the midst of everything that's going on? That's a fair question. If it's fair to question whether AFTAB should have been on vacation, it's fair to question whether she should have been at a conference. But I just thought it was ironic that she had to come back immediately, and he took a couple of days. He took a couple more days before he came back. I just got a little chuckle.
It wasn't ironic. It was consequential. Hey, Brother Dre, what do you think?
Hey, everything goes from micro to macro. And a lot of people think that, oh, this is all of a sudden. Man, these issues have been circulating for years. And that's why I've always been a strong component for who do you have in place and leadership issues. So at the end of the day, I agree with the family that's presented everything so far. It's been on point. I mean, we don't have to necessarily saturate a government square with police. That's not necessary. But what needs to happen and what disappoints me is 3CDC got $800,000 to do what? Because if you would take that particular money and say, okay, 3CDC, what we want you to do is hire second chance individuals. And these second chance individuals will come downtown, be employed by you. We will assist them and then give them mentors to assist Iris Rowley on the square. So now you have a continuous motion of people being involved in the city that have income and things that are consistent. But we don't have that in place. And so what does the city do? We just gonna throw money at you. And money is always the fix all of everything. We're gonna just give 3CDC money. We're gonna give police, and I said it clear. The police don't need a whole bunch of money. And then you have a situation with not just the money part. I made a statement on 55 KRC. You already have the OSP at the mayor's disposal. He took only 2 days at first for the entire month. So now he's taking 4 days. But if you want to do a pilot program and say it's crime, release what the government said, bring the OSP down here and have them manage accordingly to see if police can at least assist, that you're not giving up extra millions to hire more police. I mean, it's just ridiculous how leadership is thinking when you can bring in the resources that you already have and manage that accordingly instead of spending millions of taxpayers' dollars on unnecessary hiring for police.
Hey, Cam, I want to go back to you. So what do you want to see? As the president of the Better Bus Coalition, everything's going on. What do you want to see moving forward? Are you speaking with the administration right now? Are you having productive conversations?
Well, I'll tell you that we've reached out to Mayor AFTAB and his people, and we have not heard anything back yet. But y'all know me to be pretty persistent, so we're going to stay on it, even after the election. But what we want to see at Government Square is we want it to be safe. I think that we can all agree that, there's some issues down there. There's some things that's going on down there that need to be rectified. Brother Dre had brought up 3CDC. I don't know if a lot of people know, but I used to work for 3CDC. I used to be a safety ambassador, and I used to carry a police radio on behalf of 3CDC through OTR. Part of my job was to, if there was issues that I witnessed or observed, I was supposed to call that into the police radio. And so we had a communication with CPD. I didn't use the police radio that much, but it really deterred people from, bothering us because they heard the activity. But I think that there has to be more communication around the board. I agree with Brother Dre. Why are we giving $800,000 more to 3CDC? I would like to see what they're doing with the money. We do not want Government Square moved. The data says that moving it will make things worse. It would exacerbate Metro's budget and it will harm bus riders. So what we want to see Government Square refurbished. We want to see it reimagined. We want all the partners down there involved in it. It's like our town square. It's the center of everything that, bus riders depend on. People work downtown. And so, we wanted to see it stay. And that's what we're going to continue to advocate for.
What happened to the police detail, Cam, that was on the square that was pretty much working around the clock? What happened to that detail?
I'll tell you this. I don't know. I don't know how much power and control they have. I have witnessed them kind of being ducked off in the alley next to Government Square, not really engaged with what's going on there. And that's where my concerns arise, is because I've seen things exacerbating, but the police was very hands off. So while I appreciate the loitering ordinance, I feel like that's already a part of their job. That's already a part of what's going on, to engage people, to ask them, hey, what you doing here? What's up? Do you need help? And things like that. We support the ordinance, but we don't understand why it's needed, because there's already, Metro spends $1 million a year on police details at the various transit transit stops throughout the city. And so, again, it just goes back to what I've already said. That engagement should already be there if we're spending $1 million a year on that stuff.
I like one thing that you said there, Cam, just in terms of thinking about the approaches to take. You mentioned about the refurbishment, or even possibly the redesign or the restructuring of Government Square and how it's set up. And this is the type of intellectual exercise you hope your leadership takes into account, because sometimes simple design changes in the way that things set up and the way that you allow people to transition and interact can be just as effective at tamping down some of these issues as adding more police officers there. Has anybody looked at that? Has anybody examined, how can we set up Government Square so that there is more seating? If not having enough seats is an issue, is there ways to kind of create an environment to where you don't have people kind of jam-packed together that can create these types of whatever tensions are that are going on down here? That's the type of thing that you want to hear from your elected and city leaders, not just simply sending in more police or putting in anti-loitering things. If we're going to spend money, let's spend money in ways that can actually improve the look of the area, maybe create more safety, and use design elements to diffuse some of the things that are going on. Cam, you mentioned that, but has there been anything specifically discussed along those lines that could improve safety or deter some of the things that we're seeing?
Yes. The answer to your question is yes. There has been conversations and plans and a vision for reimagining what Government Square looks like, reimagining, what resources are down there. I think what held up Metro, Kevin, is having to study what Fifth Third wanted them to do, which is move Government Square. That slowed up refurbishing it, making it better, because they had to spend 1.5 years studying whether or not to move it. But I'm in agreement with you. It should be made better. The design is old, it's outdated. I want to say 07, 08. So it's time to put some investment down there and make it better. I don't agree with moving it.
So there lies the issue right there. And I was waiting for it. I was ready to jump in because I know Fifth Third has a role in this. So what is at the root of all these things? And I'm not this person, my degree is in business, but capitalism. That's what I was getting into early on. I knew that what did Fifth Third have to say? What did Procter & Gamble have to say? What did Kroger have to say? And that's the challenge right there with a lot of what can happen. You are spot on, Kevin, in terms of thinking about, holistically, design, what should we be doing? There's two things I want people to really think about. Look at how city council works in a non-election year as opposed to an election year. There's literally night and day. I remember when the loitering ordinance was first put forth, and I was thinking to myself, literally, I was like, there's already an ordinance on the books. What are we doing? But somebody has to say something, because I got to get out there first. I got to be the first one to get in front of this problem. So because I want my name out there, people have to understand, this is a real dynamic, both in my capacity as a former council person, and in my capacity as a legislative aide. This is the thinking that goes on at City Hall, and it shouldn't be like that. But it's literally, what can I think of? And there's the staff huddles. What can we come up first? How can we get our name out there first so that we're looking like we're addressing the problem, even if we're not? Because I want the news hit. I want the camera in my face. So that's the one thing. The second thing is waiting for a response for Fifth Third. That is problematic in and of itself, because you're having folks who are not impacted call the shots. And so what's happening is the band-aids, the pseudo solutions are not sustainable. Instead of like taking a step back and reacting to Jeff Ruby and the Restaurant Association and putting their needs first. Yes, I'm going to be extremely responsible and say, yes, we do want economic viability in the city. I'm not denying it, but it's overkill. There's something that it lacks balance. So you have to balance the economic viability of downtown with real addressing the safety concerns on the long term. But because of donations, because of those things, they outweigh citizens. And that's a challenge that we have right now in the city of Cincinnati. And I'm not sure what the solution is. I actually I do, but I think I do. But that is part of the problem with what's happening downtown. And I was just waiting for you, Kim. I knew you were going to come in with it, but that's the challenge right there. Is 3CDC is comprised of the money that started 3CDC were all these corporations. That the money from the city is what sustains it. But 3CDC, if people don't know, it was birthed out of these corporations putting money together so that they can make sure their business interests were protected against the safety perceived unsafe downtown. So that is the problem. But I want people to really hone in. I'm going to try to make it as I don't get super proximate to city politics by choice. I think I want to teach and show people to look at things they wouldn't ordinarily look at. Like, when people are campaigning, don't look at what they support. Look at what they introduce. Like there's a lot of these little innuendos and small things about city government that people don't think about. And I have to figure out how to leverage my experience to help people be better decision makers as it relates to who should be representing them.
A couple of you have said this. I think Tamaya, you might have said it. TNT, you might have said it. A couple of people have said this. What needs to happen and what our leadership needs to make happen is instead of having meetings with Fifth Third and the corporate types and all of these separate meetings, there needs to be a meeting where everybody is at the table, right? Like people representing the citizens and the average folk need to be able to sit across a table and look the CEO of Fifth Third or whomever in the eye and have these conversations about how do we reach solutions? Because here's the reality is we need everybody. We need the Fifth Thirds. We need the 3CDCs. We need the bus riders. We need all of the folks that we're talking about to make Cincinnati a viable and a great place where people want to live. They're all a part of an ecosystem that's important, not one any more than the other because they bring money to the table, but they got to work in synergy with each other. And as Cam said, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. Folks who ride the bus want to be as safe as Fifth Third wants Fountain Square and Government Square to be safe. So how do we get those voices together at the table where they're pulling in the same direction? So that way, when you go forth to the community and pitch a plan and say, hey, this is what we think needs to happen, it's got everybody's voice in it. So it's a lot harder to tear it apart because people's voices aren't being listened to. And I don't know what it's going to take for us to get leadership that understands, people need to be at the table. I mean, when Tamaya ran for council, when she got on council, she talked about one of her big things was bringing the folding chairs so that people could have a seat at the table. And that is incredibly important. And it seems to be a lesson that this city is just reluctant to ever learn. And until we get leaders at the table who are willing to do that, who have the guts to say, I'm not just going to listen to the CEO of Fifth Third is not just able to sit down with me or any corporation. They need to sit down with the people as well and allow them to be a part of the conversation.
Let me say something to that. Go ahead, TNT. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I still feel like the issue is disconnected to transportation altogether. Like these people are trying to get to school, work, or throughout their community. Transportation is needed. And so, there's many things that can be done. I think Brother Cam was saying earlier about more frequent routes for the bus routes that have a lot of traffic and the cost factor behind that. But if you're talking about what you want to make investment, if you want to hurry up and get people flowing and going, then maybe you do need like more frequent routes for your more, high activity bus routes. And that can kind of, keep people going, keep people going throughout their day. But when I think about some of the actions that happen with gun violence and whatnot, I just don't equate the two together. I don't see anybody shooting people and then running on the bus where cameras are at. And if that's the case, they would have caught the person by now. These people either are among that community, or maybe they're catching Ubers, maybe they're catching Lyfts, maybe they have a car. It's just like, I just see it's like a total disconnect of like what it is, and it's just like an easy target to blame the poor, blame the disfranchised, and say that they're the problems when you're taking issues that are isolated and trying to solve it in a roundabout way in the effects that it's going to impact a lot of people that really have nothing to do with it.
I think too, really fast, Kevin, the only issue I take with what you said, and first of all, I didn't say this in the beginning, Kevin, we talked last week, or last time I was here, about you changing your name to Kevin S. Aldridge, Eat the Rich. That's your new name. That's but seriously though, I think what I'm gonna take issue with what you said is that seemingly, yes, on the surface, everybody wants to be safe, but everybody's not rowing in the right direction. So what Fifth Third wants to do is increase their bottom line. They are beholden to stockholders, and that is very different than what other folks want. So I think the reason why the CEO of Kroger or Fifth Third or these corporations don't want to sit at these tables is because they know, and you alluded to this earlier, they got to give up something. And they're not willing to give that up, and they know it. So long as they're not willing to give those things up, and no one's making them do it, and that's why, like, people are like, government's too involved. Government, I mean, on its own, you would want people to do these things, but they're not going to do it on their own, and that's the government's role, is to make them do it. So that's why regulation and things like that come into play. But I think we are mistaken, and maybe a little naive if we think that the CEO of Fifth Third or any of these corporations want to sit down at the same table as Cam, because they think they're more important than you, Cam, and they think their voice is more important than you, Cam, because what they bring to the city. I bring billions of dollars, Cam, and you only bring yourself and your voice. You are not as important as me. And that is what is implied, and that's why these conversations won't take place. So everybody wants safety, yes, but safety on their terms, I should say.
And this is why you have to be able to talk to them in their language, right? Like, you got to be able to talk to everybody in their own language. And so if the bottom line is what they care about, then you got to make these corporations understand why caring about Cam and the people that he represents is important to their bottom line. Because if your workers are scared to come into Fountain Square and they're not productive because they're worried about getting shot or whatever. Okay, so here is why people like Cam or whoever, or Iris Rowley, or who's ever doing work in the community. Here's why these people and those that they represent are important, because again, safety is critical, not just to the residents of Sin, but it's critical to your bottom line. So they can think whatever they want to think about their level of importance. We can't control that. But the important thing is, okay, I'm going to speak your language. And if your language is the bottom line, then I'm going to tell you why you need to care about these people right here, what they represent and what they're trying to get done. Because if we get this right, your bottom line is going to go up, right? And if that's what they care about, and that's the truth of the matter, is if Cincinnati is viewed as a super safe city with lots of things to do, to fun, that you can walk around, Fifth Third is going to benefit from that. All of these other corporations are going to benefit from that. So it behooves them, if they really do care about their bottom line and making more money, it behooves them to work with the people at the ground level who have way more knowledge and information about what's going on the streets and influence streets than what they have. If you were smart, this is just me looking at it. If you were smart, those are the people that I would want to invest in. Those are the people that I would want to listen to and hear their suggestions, because ultimately getting it right makes me more money. And so if that's the route, if that's the language we got to speak to get them involved in, talk that stuff. But, we can't really control the superiority complex that they have. You can't legislate that. You can't, do anything about that.
I agree with Tamaya and Kevin, because I agree. Tamaya, that they're not going to respect you. They're not going to, I mean, you know, when we started this mission in 2018, 2019, I could share with y'all some of the very disturbing things that was told to me, that was sent to me in my inbox by pretty prominent people.
Tell us, well, not the names, unless you want to name the names, but tell us a little bit of what was sent to you.
I'm not going to name names. I've reformed. I've reformed since those times, so I'm not going to name names. I respect those people, but what I will say is, you know, it's a very dismissive attitude. You know, that's why I came up with Cincinnati Polite, because I mean, they'll hug me and smile and, you know, take a photo out with me all day long. You know, they'll do that stuff. But when it comes down to actually getting the work done, a lot of them are not, you know, in favor of that. So, you know, we did have to code switch a little bit. I did not come as forceful as I could, you know, but it was very productive. You know, I think that some of the business leaders right now will surprise you. They're not in favor of moving government square. I think that it's really a fifth third thing. They got their guy on the sorter board, and he is really driving this home to move it, despite the study is saying that it would cost Metro more. My question would be, who's going to pay for this? You want Metro to cut 30% of service just to move it to Riverfront Transit and make the service worse? It just doesn't make sense to me. And then I'm going to say one more thing, is that my hope is that after this election, because I agree with Kevin again, is that the brawl changed a lot. You know, social media changed this election, you know, in a big way. My hope is that after this election, that, you know, we can have real conversations about these things and they'll be productive. I think that some of this is coming from social media. AFTAB has to react to social media. The council is reacting to what they're saying and not actually, you know, what their residents and what their constituents are telling them.
Yeah, I slightly disagree with what Kevin said. It wasn't the brawl, in my opinion. We can agree to disagree. To me, it was the election in 2024. I keep telling people that changed everything. It's a whole new landscape. It's a whole new environment. And the brawl was nothing more than a symptom of that, in just my humble opinion. But here's what I want to know. I want to get you back there. I want to get everybody's opinion about the new plan for the square. So we have SWAT, or some elements of SWAT. And Dre, I want to get your thoughts on that. That'll be patrolling the square. At least that's what I read, and maybe I got it wrong. And then also, I think that I read that the mayor is drafting up a proposal to change the curfew to 6 p.m. Do you think those are good ideas? What do you think about it? Terrible.
Once again, horrible idea. Now we're going to put our youth inside the home at 6 p.m. Man, this is ridiculous. This, to have parents that are mostly single mothers in the home. Let's just be honest. Now you're going to tell them, hey, you got to watch your kid, make sure the kid is in the home at this time at 6 p.m. It puts more pressure even on that say teenager in that moment. There's more things that can occur to be better. And to have SWAT down there with full SWAT and CDRT uniforms, that is just a deterrent to make people just say, man, I don't want to be nowhere near you. That's ridiculous. Let me go ahead once again and give people a solution. You have, and this is what I said, officers who are in the wrong positions. You've heard me talk about leadership in wrong positions. You get retired officers that understand the community. You don't even have to pay them as much to be able to engage with the square, engage with the youth that understand it. You had individuals like myself, Donald Jordan, Eddie Hawkins. We get it. We're all retired. We understand how to approach somebody that's youth and talk to them as they're a person, and to start to engage community and police relations. We can't just say community members here and just police here. We have to find a way to work it together, but to have a SWAT on the square in CDRT, that is ridiculous. Once again, from leadership that don't have a clue about what they're doing and community engagement.
What's the difference between SWAT and National Guard?
There you go. There you go. You stole my thunder there, Cam, and I think Tamaya's too, because she started out with her comments opening the day talking about some of what you're seeing being done here is no different than what Donald Trump is doing. Is just being done by a Democratic administration.
I disagree with that.
Well, as far as it relates to if you putting SWAT on Fountain Square, what is the difference between that and having a military presence? Down there, it's the same type of overkill that
But the difference is they're Cincinnati police officers.
Yeah, they're Cincinnati. It's not an apples to apples, Nathan, but I think the intent of it's the message that's trying to be sent. It's the intent of the message, not necessarily it being exactly the same.
It's too close. It's too close.
Yes.
Okay, I'll give you that for sure.
And what Brother Dre described, Cincinnati used to have, it was called the Cincinnati Human Relations Commission, which, Brother Cecil Thomas, used to head up here in the city, who himself was a former police officer, where you had brothers and sisters who were on the streets trying to diffuse, trying to talk to young people. Here's the other thing that I think is important to point out. Is some of these people that we're talking about being young people ain't so young. As you mentioned in the case, you're talking about people who are in their mid-20s, and these are not kids. These are grown men and women who are sometimes involved in these altercations. So this is why the 6 p.m. curfew, I think, is just quite simply ridiculous. I think if they do that, that is probably. I mean, there's a lot of things that, as I said, in their spaghetti against the wall approach that you would criticize. But a 6 p.m. curfew, come on, man. That's that's pushing the boundaries of ridiculousness. And I think that there has to be pushback against that. Loud pushback.
I agree with you, Kevin, in that respect. There has to be pushback. But let me just start out by saying this, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this. Corey Bowman is trash. Let me be clear on that. I think that AFTAB is not making good decisions. But Corey Bowman, for me, as a Cincinnati voter, as a resident, Bowman is not an option. Because while AFTAB is wrong, Bowman is detrimental. And I think there's a difference that we need to talk about. So it's like, even if you are disenchanted with AFTAB, I understand. AFTAB is a friend of mine. So I'm just being honest with you. I'm looking at him sideways. To his face, I look at him sideways. But what I'm saying to you is Bowman is a non-starter. He's not prepared. He doesn't know what is going on. He doesn't give a damn. If you think that he is going to come in and to this city and help Black people have any interest in black anything, I got a bridge to sell you. So I just want to make sure I preface that, because I know we're being very critical of AFTAB, but I want to be clear that yes, I am critical, but Bowman is not an option. I spent a lot of time in D.C. The organization I work for, we're headquartered in D.C., and where the SWAT and the military and National Guard, they're very heavily if you're familiar with D.C., like the Navy Yard and the restaurant area on the Potomac and like all the like recreational areas, they're not in the community. They're just kind of walking around, safeguarding capitalism. They're making sure the rest people can go into the restaurants. Okay. They're making sure the businesses and go in and out of business. There's no interest in actual safety. So the issue with SWAT, when you're sending out the SWAT, when you're sending out the National Guard, what you're saying is, I'm not really interested in, long-term, issues around like poverty and safety. I'm just interested in the Band-Aid and the optics. So let's be clear about that. Like, that is not a solution. Dre, I agree with you about the curfew. That's silly. Like, it's just, again, just throwing out things. We're going to see what happens. But I just want to be clear, and I think we haven't said that. I want to be clear on that. If for me, that as a voter, Bowman is not an option. He is literally going to do. If you are sadly mistaken, if you don't think he's going to come in here and throw down the hammer on Black folks, ICE, all the things that are happening in DC, all the things that his brother is in favor for, he's going to do the same thing here. So yes, AFTAB is harmful, but Bowman is just a non-starter.
Yeah, I think we got to move past this notion of saying that criticism of AFTAB, even if you are on his team, is a good thing, and it should be that. That's the problem with our politics right now. Yes. It becomes so tribal that we don't want to risk criticizing people who are on our team because for fear that it'll be weaponized by the opponent. And I think both Republicans and Democrats have to drop that. That's part of our problem right now. When we see, you get on people that you care about, that you love, because you want them to be better, right? Like I voted for you, so I expect you to be better. I want you to look good. I want you this, that, and the other to represent. So yes, I'm gonna be on your behind because you need to do better. I know the people who are most critical of me are the people who care about me the most, because they don't want me out there looking like a fool or
but they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it behind closed doors, though. Like it's a new environment. You
can do it behind closed doors, but when the message ain't getting through, sometimes you got to take it. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more public. I don't know who AvTab is listening to. I don't know who's consulting him right now, but he got a whole lot of folks that's on his team upset with the decisions that he's making. What is being said to him is not penetrating.
Let me see, y'all being too hard on AvTab. So let me start
too hard.
Y'all being too hard on AvTab. Let me tell you why.
Yeah, that was this out, brother.
Y'all, let me break it down for y'all. And y'all trying to have it both ways, and I just can't have it. Plus, I want to stir the pot a little bit. So, so we just had a conversation about how we're in a new political era. And I think we can all agree that the moves that we see from the current administration are political in nature. Is that correct? We all agree on that? Okay. And that's because we're in a new political era. So I get it. I understand people like, hey, who is this? Why is AvTab bringing the SWAT team and making these moves? But if he doesn't, the consequence is that the federal government's going to step in and do it. And nobody wants that. I think that AvTab is playing a political game that's larger than just the politics here in Cincinnati. He understands the era that we're in. We're in the Trump era. You're in a red state. And he knows that if he don't start making some moves from the city side, then the state and federals are going to come in and do it just like we've seen them do it in other blue cities. So I think he's making these moves in part, not just to win the election. He's got that. I think he understands that if he doesn't, then Trump and his boys are going to come in and we're going to see Cincinnati. We're going to see scenes in Cincinnati like we see in Portland right now. And I think that's what he's doing. And if that is what his calculation is, I don't have a problem with it. I understand it.
So here's my problem with that. Is doing bad, pushing through bad ideas to prevent worse ideas is not saving folks. I think no, it's not. I think people would respect AvTab and Democrats more if they did the quote unquote right thing or the correct thing. And then if Trump comes in, people are prepared to fight for that and stand up for
That's a worse situation, Kevin.
Against those sorts of efforts.
That's
right?
a worse situation.
Well,
if AvTab's calculation is
SWAT versus the National Guard on Fountain Square, I don't see the difference.
SWAT versus the National Guard is way better.
Yeah, now the National Guard, what they're doing in Washington D.C. and other places is picking up garbage and trash. If you really look, if you really look behind what the National Guard is actually doing in these places, they aren't doing anything. They aren't doing any enforcement.
So now
it's a threat that Trump likes to throw out there.
So earlier you said it was a bad idea to have the National Guard come in, but now you're saying it's no big deal the National Guard comes in.
I'm not saying that it's a good look or it's a good thing. I'm just saying you got to look at the reality.
Which is better though, Kevin?
What's actually happening there.
Which is better? Would you rather have
SWAT they're not better
or the National Guard?
In Cincinnati, more people have been killed by Cincinnati police officers than National Guard.
What would you rather have, SWAT or the National Guard?
More black people have been killed by Cincinnati police officers than National Guard members.
Which would you rather have, SWAT or the National Guard? Because
I'd rather have neither. Because neither is a good idea.
The choice is: do you want SWAT or do you want Trump and the National Guard here? That's what the man is trying to stop. Period.
I think that if AvTab had all of his ducks in a row, he wouldn't have to play defense with the national politics. That's what I think.
How so? He has no control over national politics or national.
Right, but he has control over his home. And I think that the part of the reason that stuff is creeping in is because he has not managed it well. To your point earlier about the brawl, My man should have came
what
home.
What could he have done different
He
about the brawl?
should have not been out on vacation. He should have came home ASAP,
Oh my God.
had a press conference, and stood 10 toes down.
Oh
And he allowed the national conservative media to beat us up, to have this bad perception, and so now he playing defense. So I think that, you know what I mean? Like that's
I hear
what
you.
I feel about it.
But I disagree with you. I think that, and I'll say it again, it wouldn't have mattered if he was here or not.
Perception matters.
They was looking for any example. That's why this whole conversation about should Thiegy have gone to a conference? Yes, she should have gone to a conference because she might have went to Denver and she might have met with some other police chiefs and she might have got some good ideas to bring back here. That's why people go to conferences. They're professional. That's why people go to conferences to get best practices that people are using in other cities that you might not be aware of. She should have went. Just like if AvTab wants to go on vacation, go on vacation. He can't stop what Fox News and national media and bad actors are going to do. They were going to do that anyway.
Gotta be a leader at the same time.
We talking as if there hasn't been any success with this administration. This administration has done a lot. And when even when they had those press conferences, I mean, the PowerPoint presentation, just to go bit by bit by bit on what they do as in response to crime, where they really dive in. They work with people like Iris Rowley. They're solution oriented, and it's boring. People don't want those facts. They just want this. So really what you're seeing right now is just a response to this slap reaction from the public, you know what I mean? Which is not a whole lot of his base, but it's just a slap reaction. Like some of these things, they're already in place. Like we said, the ordinance for lottery. I mean, they do that anyway. So it's just like throwing out the curfew that was already on the book. So it's just like really just to appease the people that if you ain't really following the law, you don't really know. You think they doing something, but they really just reinforce it or just saying in symbolic way, well, we're going to do this. And then it really comes down to the police. And like Brother Dre said, you know, most of those individuals, yeah, you may say this, but they ain't going to waste their time with all of that. They're not going to be hassling people like that just because it's all for show. In a few weeks, all this is really going to die down. You know what I'm saying? And so for us to like get so invested in like, oh, what is he doing? What is he doing? Like for someone like myself that is informed with the community and city and everything else, this like, I'm not controlled by the narrative by the ops. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us get controlled in that narrative. Then we start talking about it like, I hate how we spoke for weeks and weeks on end about that brawl. Every time we gave life to that was a win for them. That was a win for the opposition. And in reality, you know what I'm saying? What we know is really more police is not going to prevent crime or not going to stop crime. All we can do is our best to reduce it. And the numbers say what they say, the data say what they say. The truth of the matter in solving any of our issues is going to require us to analyze the data, look and do the research, and then have real problem solving tactics with the stakeholders involved. And they do that. They're really good on that. You know what I'm saying? And they're good with money. I mean, I was against the whole selling of the railroad, but come to find out with everything going on now, that looked like that was a astronomical good ass move, because now we don't have to be so heavily reliant on a president that want to take funds away from us on every bit just because we're a sanctuary city or whatever else. Well, you know what? The city is making a lot of money off that interest and everything else. That was a power move. So despite what people say, contrary to belief, you know what I'm saying, this administration, not just AvTab, but Jan Michelle Kearney as the vice president, different ones, they're doing, can they do better? Is there room for improvement? Always. But the opposition was out there right now. They just playing politics and they playing with your intelligence. And I just don't respect that.
I think too, though, is that, you know, I agree with you, TNT. I think that the administration has done good things, bad things too. But I was staying in my lane until the man started talking about taking bus stops and, you know, removing bus routers and stuff like that. And that's when he got too crazy for me. But, you know, outside of that, I really largely, I'm with you. I cannot wait until this election. We know the result of the election. Now, we don't really know how city council will shake out. We kind of do, but we don't. But we know that AvTab is going to win re-election. So, like you said, all this hoopla over what things is going to end, in a few weeks. But again, when you start coming for bus riders, I mean, I text them before I submitted any op-eds or anything. I text him. I wanted to have a conversation with him to understand his thinking. No response. So, I mean, as bus riders, we got to stand up, when the mayor is just coming up with some things that we think are kind of nonsensical.
Well, Cam, I'm glad you said
like
that.
the business community is raising their voice. So
man. I love y'all. I love y'all AFTAB apologists. Nathan in particular. Nathan, you the big AFTAB apologist. TNT, I love you. Y'all remind me of how I am with my Bengals, right? Nobody, no matter how bad the defense is, no matter how many interceptions somebody throw, I'm always trying to stump for him. Hey man, there's a reason why Jake Browning threw 3 interceptions in a game. There's a reason why there was a coverage bust and they gave up a 68-yard touchdown last. Joe Flacco played a great game. They won. They got the victory. But that don't mean I can't be critical of how the defense played. This is what makes me mad about y'all AFTAB apologists. Look, we can and these city council apologists, look, we can agree. They've done some good things. You can't argue with some of the results with crime. Shootings are down, okay? But that doesn't mean that people are not allowed to criticize parts of the game.
No one's ever argued that.
I know it hurts. I know it hurts. It hurts me every time somebody come for the Bengals neck. It hurts. I want to defend. But deep down, I know they right. The defense does have problems. We ain't got enough players on the D. It's the same thing with AFTAB and this council. They've done some good things, but that does not absolve them from people pointing out where they need to get better.
And no one ever argued that they shouldn't be criticized. I just want to make sure that when we're talking about this problem, I made the same point last week when I talked about the media. We should be looking at everything. We should be looking at the schools, the parents, the police, the elected officials, the media. Everybody should be thinking and rethinking what their place is in this mess. But you know what? We've been talking for a whole hour and nobody has really talked about the real issue. So let me break it down for you. You cannot tie a city's hands on gun regulation and then blame it for not catching all the bullets that comes with those hands being tied. In 2018, the Ohio Supreme Court effectively said that cities like the city of Cincinnati cannot pass any gun regulation that goes against what happens at the state. So why don't we ever talk about and point fingers at state officials? Why don't we ever do that? The city of Cincinnati can do nothing when it comes to gun regulation.
Not to interrupt you.
Without the state.
Not to interrupt you, but my high school basketball teammate did talk about gun laws at the beginning.
But you didn't talk about the state. And that's what I'm saying. That's what we need to be
talking
about.
Okay.
That's what we need to be
talking about. I just want to make sure we played on Aiken High School basketball team together. So I want to make sure I get that assist. Yeah.
Absolutely. But we didn't
talk
about the
point guard, always a point guard.
We didn't talk about the state, and we didn't talk about the Ohio General Assembly. And typically when these conversations comes up, I'm always like bewildered. Like, why don't we ever talk about the people who have all the control? To me, if you have control, then you have accountability. But we keep asking the city of Cincinnati to control something and to fix a problem that they don't even have full control over.
You 100% right. And people do talk about it. A lot of people talk about it. In fact,
we ain't talked about it to this point.
In fact,
the media in Cincinnati rarely talks about it.
Outside of TNT's point, I'm talking about the larger conversation about gun laws. It happens all the time. And in fact, the majority of Ohioans talk about it. The problem that you have, and if you want to talk about elections, we get caught up in these local city council races and we get caught up in these national politics for presidential races, but we don't pay enough to state legislative races. The reason why Ohioans are talking about it and nothing is getting done is because your elected representatives in Columbus don't have to listen to you. How many times have they opposed, because of the gerrymandered districts that exist in the state of Ohio, how many times have they ignored Ohio voters, even on fixing gerrymandering, right? So
You're
this
doing it now.
We're not talking about gerrymandering. What
no,
I would
yes,
like to
we
see
are
is
because
more conversation. No, we're not.
gerrymandering.
We are
Nathan,
not talking about gerrymandering.
Nathan,
We are
let me
talking
finish my
about
point, and then I'll let you go.
Go
Gerrymandering
right
has
ahead.
everything to do with it.
Point. Gerrymandering is at the heart of why you can't get anything done on gun legislation in Ohio, because the Republicans control the state house because it's gerrymandered. They don't have to listen to the majority of Ohioans who want reasonable gun laws. Hell, they don't even have to listen to. They don't even have to listen to the governor.
I'm gonna let you.
They have a majority.
Yeah,
it veto the governor.
But here's my point. Currently, gerrymandering or not, we know the facts of gerrymandering. It's not about gerrymandering. It's about who do we blame and who do we point fingers at when we start talking about gun violence in Cincinnati. I rarely, if ever, see news articles or conversations where people say, well, who's got the real legislative responsibility? It's the state legislators. I rarely ever see that. Instead, what I see is it's the police chief, it's the city manager, it's city council, and they don't have the power. And I wish that as a part of every article that local media runs or talks about, there's a little blurb in which they say, you need to call your state legislatures because they got all the power, rather than leaving it like it's ABTAB's fault or it's city council's fault. And we all know, and for people who don't know, they need to be taught this, that they don't have any power.
And that's the diabolical game of Republicans, because they check their data. Their data says that their voters and they're good on stopping crime. Like, people believe that they're good on stopping crime. So that, of course, that's going to be the narrative and the platform they use, even though they know on the state level that a lot of the laws that they have actually passed have caused more, homicides. Like I said earlier, every state that has lax gun laws has an increase in homicides. And so that just goes without saying. So when we ended the concealed carry, no training, no background checks. Even Cecil Thomas said it was going to be like 2,000 people that was stopped before. Now they're able to have a gun. You know what I'm saying? Mental health issues and everything else alike. And like we said, of course, we're going to have these incidents, and it's going to be an uptick. We were lucky in the years prior where we were able to manage and keep homicides down or gun or crime down for the past couple of years. And even with like the police, I'm sorry, getting my thoughts mixed up. But even with the police not being at full staff, like from my understanding, we don't even have a full staff of police. But despite all of that, we still had crime rates that were low. I don't know if that's the case right now in this situation, but this is just, again, a political tactic narrative that is a winning one for them. They have to use, they want to use. And so, when we just fall into the whole conversation about that, despite what we know, I mean, you've even had questions at the debate, despite the numbers saying what can we do to make voters feel safer? Well, it's nothing anyone can do to feel safe. You're not just on a local level, but on a national level. We're hearing about all these mass shootings. It's just like you could be a soft target at any moment, at any place, whether you're going to the store, going to your church, and then you just couple that with all the violence from DHS and Homeland Security. It's just like people feel under attack. And so, of course, when you do these polls and you ask, do you feel safe? Most people are going to say, no, I don't. But it doesn't mean because it's something locally all the time, but that's just the narrative that your politicians is going to tie together because it benefits them.
Let me just say that yes, that's true. And in terms of the polls, I laugh at the polls because the people who are taking the polls don't even come downtown. They're asking people who live in Westchester and Milford, or do you feel safe downtown? There's they don't really have any real proximity to downtown. So those polls always make me laugh in terms of who they ask about safety. But I do want to bring up two things. I think one, Kevin is absolutely right. Gerrymandering has everything to do with it because they feel safe to do whatever they want because they're not in danger of losing their race because of how their districts are drawn. And that's what was so important about the fair district. And a lot of people didn't really know about gerrymandering, and people people who didn't pay attention in social studies class when we were talking about gerrymandering, and it's really important that people really fully understand what it means. So just to not to get super micro on you, but from a macro perspective, you can have an area in any place that is majority Black, but they will carve out some of that area into a white area, so that even though your representation should look like you or have the same experiences as you or lived experience, you're going to be drawn into a district where there's no proximity. So the strategy to gerrymander, while very evil, was very smart to draw the lines the way that they were drawn. That's number one. Number two, I think we need to pay attention to what's happening at the Supreme Court. If we talk about districting and Voting Rights Act, and what's happening at the Supreme Court right now is they're really trying to undermining the Voting Rights Act. So they are doing. What'd you say?
Yeah, I said that's a wrap.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. So people, but people have to understand these are the things. Well, while we're quibbling over little small things, they are designing this country the way they want it to look, and we're not the wise because we want to argue and do these. They're playing.
Some of us were wise to it, and we tried to tell people, but that decision.
You know
was
what? You are not wrong.
Years ago.
You're
Back
not
when Hillary
wrong.
was running, we tried to tell people.
You're right.
Too many of us was caught up on what Hillary said back in the 90s.
You're right.
And I remember telling people 90s. Who cares? Do you understand what we're talking about? All that's done for.
We didn't like her laugh. We didn't like her husband.
Didn't like her husband. It's a wrap.
And now we just ass out here. We getting our rights just literally just being. People don't really understand.
They do not.
Mitch McConnell, when he is literally he is the reason why the Supreme Court looks the way it looks. While he literally blocked everything Obama tried to do in terms of appointments. Who cares if you don't like the way somebody left? You got to understand the big picture. That's why Roe versus Wade got under attack. That's why the Voting Rights Act is under attack. That's why the Supreme Court voted to allow the president to have unlimited power. John Roberts and Mitch McConnell has blood on their hands for what they did to this country, and why there's no trust in the Supreme Court and our judicial system as a whole. But I just want to be clear: gerrymander is absolutely one of the reasons why things are the way they are, because there's no fear of losing your seat. So I even want to talk about and for a future show, Nathan, I would love to talk about ranked choice voting, because that's something I work on around the country.
Let's do it.
That would give people more voice, and people don't really understand it. But I would like to start the conversation, because even in Cincinnati, where I was a proud Democrat, we got an all Democrat council. This is not a good council. And so we need, because again, there's safety with that D behind their name. They don't feel like they're doing it. We have to start doing things that make people uncomfortable and make them earn the vote as opposed to just giving them the representation. So I want to have the conversation about ranked choice voting. I want to have the conversation about
why do you think this isn't a good council, Tamaya?
What'd you say?
Why do you think this isn't a good council?
Because there's not things happening for Black folks. There's no one. I shouldn't say there's no one. There are people on there, but they're in the minority. You got people who haven't done a squat for Black people, and they're going to get back in council. There's people who have the personality of this plastic knife, and they're going to get back on council. That's the problem with our city council. We have probably about, and y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to name names because I don't get proximate, but I'm a voter and I pay attention. There's people who haven't done a damn thing, and they're going to get back in office, because once you give to people when they're going in, they know they hate the GOP, they know they had MAGA, so they're going to give them this blue sheet, and they're going to go in there and vote every person that's on that sheet, whether that person deserves their vote or not. I'm not saying vote for MAGA, but I'm telling you, don't vote for all the Democrats. I don't care what anybody says, because everybody
other Democrats and independents that's running.
And that's why, going back to my earlier point about criticism, nobody is above it. Nobody should have a rubber stamp, blank check, automatic, revote without showing or being able to tell you why they deserve to be back on there. And that happens too many times with too many voters who just go in and vote the slate without really taking a hard look at, what did this person really do in their couple of years? And granted, a couple of years is not a lot of time. I don't like the fact that, we have such quick turnover on council seats. I think, it puts people in perpetual election mode all the time, because by the time you get in, you're already running for the next election. But let me just get back to this gun point. I think one of the reasons why we don't get movement on that is because we don't talk about it the right way, and we don't call Republicans out on their hypocrisy when it comes to crime. I just sat here and heard Corey Bowman say in the debate, and I want Brother Dre to weigh in on this. He said during the debate, I want to give police officers everything that they need to be able to do their job correctly. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and Brother Dre can correct me on this, but I think most police organizations have said that they have an issue with the access to guns and some of the gun laws in this country, that they're not in favor of this free-for-all that everybody should be able to get guns. Guess why? Because it poses a danger to them as well. So if you are interested as a Republican in giving the police what they need to do their jobs correctly, then you might want to help them by getting some of these guns off this and not making guns as easily accessible. But this is the type of hypocrisy that Republicans like to get away with when they want to have it both ways, when they want to play on crime. Oh yeah, give police everything they need except for taking guns off the streets by having stricter gun laws. Go ahead, Brother Dre. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I blame the media for that, but go ahead, Brother Dre.
Yeah, well, you said something earlier. You said everyone at the table. Everybody has to be at the table so we can work as one. But what's interesting about this whole thing, it reminds me of when I competed in bodybuilding and a person would have a big upper body and y'all see him used to be out there at the clubs and he ain't got no legs. You be like, dude got the tightest shirt on, but he ain't got no leg. We're an incomplete city who don't want to work together. And that's the whole point. If I sit there and I arrest somebody who has a gun spec, weapons under disability, he goes back to the judge that's on probation with a felony. And guess what the judge does? Let him out on $500 bond. So somebody has to help even the police with the situation at that moment. That's a
due process.
That's the gun law.
With that process. But even if it's a gun law, you got a gun spec, they still shouldn't just let you right out and just say goodbye. They should make it tougher in that moment and keep you behind bars to make sure I'm not going to let a hardened criminal back out who's going to go get another gun and shoot somebody when I had him already with weapons under disability. That's ridiculous.
It sounds like I'm kind of winning some of you guys over. So I'll say this again, and maybe you disagree, and maybe you agree with this, but to me, legal authority equals responsibility. And I'm bringing it back to who is responsible for the gun laws in Cincinnati. It ain't city council, it's the state. And I wish that when we had these conversations and when media wrote and reported about the shootings, they pointed the fingers to the people who are responsible. It ain't city council. It ain't AvTab. It's the Ohio General Assembly. Whether it's due to gerrymandering, which I agree with, or not, who has the legal authority. So why are we down here in Cincinnati holding a police chief and city council and everybody responsible for something that they have no legal authority over? If city council had legal authority to change gun laws, they probably would, and they would probably have an effect, but they don't. And that needs to be a part of every news broadcast about crime so that it teaches the people who are actually responsible for what you're so upset about.
Yeah, but that doesn't work, Nathan. I'm gonna tell you why it doesn't work. Because people
what doesn't work? Telling people the truth doesn't work.
What you just suggested, because the people who understand that and know that already know that, right? They're most of the. But
what about the people who don't?
If you don't, then you're not paying attention, and then that means that the politicians need to do a better job of bringing it up.
And the media does a better job.
The media would report it if the politicians said it. They report what the politicians
said.
But
why does the media need the politicians to tell you what to report when you already know the facts?
That the media doesn't report it in every story. They don't report a lot of stuff. They don't report a lot of stuff in every story.
Yeah, but they don't need a lot of stuff. If you are going to report about crime in Cincinnati, right? It can't just be sensationalism. It's got to be results. How do you solve it? And part of that is holding the people who are legally responsible for it responsible.
Well, but because you're going to always get into, there's going to be disagreement about that, Nathan, and that's the reason.
Listen, we can disagree about the world being flat, but we all know it's round. Period.
This is what the essence of this whole gun situation is because the people who agree with what you said already agree with it. The people who don't, you're not going to change their mind.
It's not about it's about reporting the facts.
Nathan, the facts.
I'm not telling you to report opinion.
The facts get reported. Like, what is your point? Like,
I just made
say,
my point.
Okay, we just want to blame the general, or is the idea to solve the problem?
The idea is to solve the problem.
Okay,
by
so
teaching,
then the blame.
You want to know the answer?
The blaming.
Would you like to know the answer?
The blaming gets nowhere.
Would you like to know the answer?
What's the answer?
The point is to move towards solutions, to
Yes,
point the
but
fingers
but
at the
Nathan,
people. Do you want to hear it? To point the fingers at the people who are legally responsible.
yeah,
So if everybody's
Nathan,
upset about gun laws or gun violence, that means that you care about gun laws. City council and the mayor and the police chief have no control over gun laws in Cincinnati.
do
The
you think
Ohio General Assembly does. So
do you
part of
think
what the
people
media
who
should
are
be
you think the
doing,
people who are
other
really
than just
plugged in, Nathan, don't
sensationalizing.
understand that? Do you
Yeah,
think
but
the
what I'm
people who
telling
are
you
really
is,
plugged,
if you're not
who are
going to
really
give
plugged in,
people,
see, you're
can I
living
finish? Can I finish?
naive world
It's
where
not a
you think
naive
like
world. It's
where you
not a
think
naive
like the
world, sir.
politics, the
Can
lines
I
haven't
finish?
already been drawn in the
I know I'm
sand
wrong,
on
but
this
can I
issue.
finish? I know I'm wrong. So it's not naive to suggest that the media needs to do a better job. The
Okay,
media in Cincinnati is
that's
failing
not gonna.
us.
What you're suggesting is not gonna
It don't
change
matter whether
anything.
it happens. It's a lot of stuff that may not happen. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't push for a better, brighter tomorrow, for a better city.
And people do.
And part of that,
Nate. You act
and
like
part,
this
let
isn't
me finish.
happening.
Part
You
of
act
that
like it's not
is,
happening.
if the media is not going to be a
I'm not gonna let
serious
you drag me
partner.
down this rabbit hole like last week. I know that's
I mean,
what you're trying to do.
but
I know
earlier
you're
you
trying
brought
to
up the wrong
skirt the
analogy. You was
I'm
talking
not
about
gonna take the
defending the
cheese
Bengals.
this week, brother. I'm not gonna take the cheese.
Okay, well, let me finish what I got to say. So, like I said, every time, if the media is not going to report on solutions, that means that when they're reporting on crime, they're just sensationalizing it. It's just a dopamine hit. What I'm suggesting is you give and you arm people with the knowledge. You educate them about who is actually responsible for gun laws. I'll say it for the umpteenth time. It's not AVTAB. It's not Fiji. It's not City Council. It's not the Hamilton County Commissioners. It's the Ohio General Assembly. And if you're not going to educate people on who they need to talk to get what they want, then all you're doing is basically traumatizing people for the sake of ratings. And that don't work.
So I just have a question. I just have a really quick question. Just really quick. So are you saying, Nathan, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So it is, so on every level, so not just in the city-state dynamic, but on every level of government, you want to hold the media more accountable is what you're saying.
That's what I said. I think,
I'm
that's not what I said at all.
That's what I'm asking. I'm asking for clarity. I'm not being facetious. I really want to know, like,
what I'm saying is, and let me reiterate it. What I am saying is, and I'll say it for the umpteenth time. I said it last week. I'll say it again. As we're sitting around and spinning our wheels and rethinking all the different players in Cincinnati as it relates to violence, I've heard conversations about now the buses. I've heard conversations about CPS. I hear conversations about parents. I hear conversations about the youth. I hear conversations about employment, but I don't hear enough conversations about the media. I think everybody here locally should be looking at what they do and how they're doing it and asking themselves, can they do it better? That's what I'm saying. And the media is, just to Kevin's point. So Kevin says we can criticize politicians, but when I criticize the media, he gets in his feelings about it. All I'm saying is the media is like everybody else. They can be criticized as well.
I don't disagree with that, Nathan. Never disagree with it. What I disagree with you about is the blanket statements that you make, the absolutism.
You mean like legal authority
that you have, that those sorts of things aren't taking place. What I always push back is your 100% assurity that these conversations aren't happening when I'm in places where these conversations are happening, because it's not happening the way that you, Nathan Ivy, think that it should happen. Doesn't mean that you're
it's
right.
Not personal.
It doesn't mean personal. That no, but Nathan, I'm not making it I'm just saying you have a particular perspective. That's your perspective. That don't make you right. That don't make what you're saying right.
It's not about my perspective, sir.
It is.
It's about what the media is doing. You keep trying to make it about me.
Absolutely
it's not about me.
It is your perspective.
It is my opinion.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Same thing.
But this is not about me.
It's the same thing.
So do you agree or disagree, Kevin, that legal authority equals responsibility? Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not going down this rabbit hole with you again today because I know what you're trying to do. But what I'm trying to say about this gun issue, which is where we need to keep it at.
But what do you think I'm trying to do?
What can people actually do to get the results that
you're gonna make a statement like that and you ain't gonna answer the question? What do you think I'm trying to do?
What's the question? I don't even know what.
What do you think I'm trying to do?
I don't know what you're trying to do.
Let me ask this.
If you're not going to explain it, don't say it.
Let me ask this.
You're not going to explain it.
I hear what you're, and I'm really I didn't hear last week, so I appreciate you reiterating your point, Nathan. But what I'm also trying to figure out is the elected officials, the local ones. What are they doing? And I'm trying to figure out in the scope of like what both of y'all are saying. What is their responsibility to educate folks on what is? I'm not a media fan any way, shape, or form, but I'm also curious.
Oh,
I am not. I'll be very clear about that. But what I'm curious about though is like what is the onus on the elected officials to also, when they're talking with folks about like where the responsibility of gun control and gun laws, like I don't see them talking about it. So like I get what you're saying, Nathan.
You don't see them talking about what?
The onus, like taking the blame, and I want to make sure I'm clear. Like I'm not here to be combative. I'm literally just here to learn. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying in terms of like, you're right. The state, just give me a second. The state is, creates the gun laws. Totally get that. But what I'm saying to you is I also haven't heard you say, and maybe you did not miss it, and it could very well be the case, the local elected officials who you said are not to blame for the gun laws, are they themselves also doing the job of educating folks on what the state laws should be? I have not heard, and maybe again, I don't stay super proximate to the city.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. I agree. If the point you're trying to make is that we need city council members to point fingers back at the state house, I agree with you 100%. And they don't. What I have heard multiple times, I've heard AvTab say this, and again, I'm just stirring the pot. I'm not trying to defend anybody, but for the sake of the conversation. But I've heard AvTab say it many times. I'm responsible for safety. I've heard him say that many, many times. I've heard the police chief say it. I'm responsible for safety. I've heard city council members say our number one job is safety. So I see them taking responsibility for it.
The closest thing, and I would say the closest thing I've heard to as a local official talking about the state as it relates to the gentleman who was murdered, the gym owner, and like how like it slipped through the loophole, like right. How he had, he wasn't supposed to. He is supposed to had already been like arrested or detained because he had eluded his probation or his parole. And so that was the only time I've ever this year or any other years, I guess, except within the last few years, I should say, hear someone talk about the state's responsibility. So that was a little bit. So in terms, that's the only thing that I've heard. So I understand what you're saying to a certain degree, but I also am not really ready to absolve local officials of total responsibility. So there are a lot of dynamics, and I think, in my opinion, I know you're stirring the pot, but I feel like there's a responsibility for everyone, and I think you're not
exactly
the totality.
That's what I'm saying. There's a responsibility for everyone, and we rarely point the fingers at the state. That's my point. There is a responsibility for everybody. Everybody. Mm-hmm. Nobody should be absolved from finger pointing when everybody is so concerned about what's happening in terms of violence. Everybody. That's media, city council, state, mom, dad, schools, recs. Everybody should be on the menu as we try to figure out how we make a better Cincinnati. And I just hear less from. I hear less criticism from certain elements.
Yeah. Okay, so
and I want to push them onto the fire.
Here's the challenge. I agree with everything that Nathan said. I agree with everything that Tamaya said. Nobody is above criticism or looking at themselves, but hold everybody to the same standard. That same energy that you bring in for the media, Nathan, bring it for AvTab and city council. You ain't bringing that. Let me finish, bro. You ain't bringing that kind of energy.
I don't need to.
Because you stopping for them. You trying to apologize for them. You spend all your time.
Would you like to know what it is?
Your time apologizing for them and the fact what they're not saying, but you want to be critical of the media. I'm just saying, bro, bring the same energy.
I don't need to.
You want to stir the pot? Let's stir it. Bring that same energy, bro, that you bring into the media. Bring that to your preferred.
Can I tell you why I don't need to? You're going to agree with me when I say it. I don't need to because everybody else is. There is nobody in the crosshairs right now more than AvTab Pureval, the police chief, and city council.
So shouldn't they be saying it? So if they're in the crosshairs, Nathan, to your point, Shouldn't they be the ones out there saying exactly what you're saying,
along with
louder
the media?
than
Yes,
anybody?
they should absolutely.
But they
Along
not.
with no,
They should be saying it every day at every
the
press conference.
media.
This is what you're saying. This is what you're saying. The media should be doing.
Yeah,
So
they
shouldn't AFTAB and the police chief and everybody, if guns is the issue that you say it is, every press conference, shouldn't they be saying that? Hey, talk to your state representative. It's the guns. Don't look at us. We're doing everything we can. But that's not what they're saying. Why aren't you saying that they should be doing that at every press conference, at every opportunity? Because that's what you ask the media to do.
I recall that like one of the
bro.
very first press conferences, AFTAB did mention on the state level about, responsibility.
One time,
exactly.
One time.
But I think at a certain point,
time.
whoever his team is kind of told him that's not going to work. You need to take ownership, like passing the buck. And he, ever since, he just owned it. You know what I'm saying? And so, but that's a real reality too. And it's really of the people. The people have to speak for this. We have to go up to the State House and we have to demand this. We have to do the petition drives and get this back started. And I understand, when this isn't checkers, this is chess. And so again, we're dealing with a gerrymandered state. And so even in some of the ballot initiatives that people have put forward, like the marijuana one, and then we pass it, and what do? They change it. You know what I'm saying? Like they have too much power.
Yes,
too much power right now. So we have to get the gerrymandering situation under wraps. And right now they playing with us again because they're supposed to rewrite it and do fair. This went all the way to the state Supreme Court, but you have a Republican led state Supreme Court with Joe Dieters at the top of it, and so they're always going to side with the Republicans. Our governor is Republican, the Secretary of State, the treasurer. So those are like the we try to have a ballot initiative where it was an independent board, and that didn't pass. Just by slim, it didn't pass. People didn't understand this was for you, so you can have a voice. And so now it just went back to what it was. And the last one that was put together, it went to a federal court outside the state Supreme Court when they rejected it. And we had one single Republican on there that was like, I forget her name right now, the justice, but she kept rejecting it because the maps was not fair. It went to a Trump appointed judge, and he just said, keep it the way it is. And it's been that ever since. And so now it is up again, and they're playing the same game. They're just delaying it. So once it just goes through the course, they're just going to do the same thing. And we're not going to have the type of maps we need to make things fair in Ohio. It's really a crooked game. The politicians should not be picking their voters. We should be picking our politicians and who we want to represent us. And that really, it should be more voice to that. And I agree with Nathan. Like, we talk about all these other things, but it's just like, that's the conversation. That's incumbent on the NAACP, Urban League, all these organizations, these fraternities, sororities. We got to get the word out. Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. We are a big populous city. And if everybody understood on a level like what the assignment is, we could win. But it's just like, everybody in their silos, social media got you lost here, got you few people saying this here, you give up. And the whole thing is to make people feel hopeless, complacent, and to not participate. And that was our failure last year. And it's why we are where we are right now. But we got to get on board. We got to be informed about what's going on. An informed voter is an empowered voter. So we just got to do the work. And that's incumbent of all of us, the people, the community, all of us.
I agree 1,000%. Everybody, at a moment like this, when people are like, "Oh, we got this crime crisis," nobody exempt. Everybody should be called to the carpet and should be criticized, and maybe should reanalyze and maybe think about what their contribution is. But I'll say one last thing about this dichotomy between Columbus and Cincinnati, and I put it this way, as it relates to gun violence and gun control: if the thermostat is
You went out, Nathan.
Must have been a profound take because he went out as soon as it started.
or it might have been some nonsense.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
That's Columbus intervening. See, if we'd
Yeah.
addressed gerrymandering, we'd be at
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep,
Yeah,
we
we
got
can hear
you.
you now.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
No, it ain't no nonsense. All superlative flows. But here's what I'll say. You know, in this relationship as it relates to gun violence and gun laws between Columbus and Cincinnati, I'll put it this way and we can move on. If the thermostat is in Columbus, you can't blame Cincinnati for the heat. You can't just blame Cincinnati for the heat. The thermostat is up there when it comes to gun laws. And that's all I'm trying to say. And I don't hear it enough. Yeah, people say it here and there. I don't hear it enough from politicians. I most certainly don't see it enough and hear it enough when it's reported in local media. And I think that is a problem because it makes people think that Cincinnati can solve it all by themselves, and they cannot. So when you're talking about everybody needs to be at the table, the Ohio General Assembly needs to be there as well because they hold all the keys.
Yeah, here's one only thing agree, or I'll push back on what you said there, Nathan, is that this crime issue, that yes, guns are a big part of that, but there are a lot of other symptoms and things that contribute to the crime and violence issues that we have in Cincinnati. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, you know, solving the gun issue would solve the violence issue in Cincinnati. It's certainly a symptom. It certainly would help, but I think it's also disingenuous and probably false to feed the public a line that, hey, if we just do some gun reform, that is going to bring violence down considerably or to zero. But no, that's part of the conversation that we're having about, you know, Cincinnati having no control over gun laws. That's how we got into this. That's how we got into this. Yeah. So I think to say that the local leaders are completely let off the hook because of what Columbus is doing, or what they're doing in the State House in Columbus, is not accurate and probably isn't helpful overall to trying to solve the crime situation. There are a lot of things that we got to address to deal with. That's
one of them.
You know,
nobody's suggesting that's the only thing, though. Where'd you hear that, Kevin?
No, but I'm pushing back on your notion that, Cincinnati City Council and the mayor and those should get a break because they don't control gun laws. No, but there are
You're
other
hearing
things.
What you want to hear,
But
sir.
there are other factors that are contributing to the
We
problem.
know that, Kevin. We know there's other factors. We know that. We know that. Nobody ever suggested that.
But that's what Nathan. But that's what
you want to hear.
That's what you've been arguing for the last 30 minutes.
How is that what I've been arguing when I just said
why are we blaming
that everybody needs to be called?
Wait.
Y'all not gonna jump in and correct this man?
The panel can correct me.
Y'all
why
not
are
gonna
we
jump in and correct
blaming the
this
mayor
man?
and city council when Columbus has the keys?
Don't be scared.
Is that not what you said?
Did you not just hear me say for like the 9th time that everybody needs to be?
You just said that, but that wasn't what you started out with.
Don't be scared.
That wasn't what you started out with.
Don't be scared, but if y'all scared, I'll say it.
Arguing for the majority of the time.
You're hearing what you want to hear, sir.
I'll let the
other part.
The chat panel know what it is.
Yeah, they scared to talk.
You can
Stop
go back and
Kevin
watch
second up to him
yourself
and say something to him.
Go back and watch yourself on the replay, bro.
Yeah,
and you can apologize later.
I don't have to apologize when I know I'm right. I just said for now the 10th time that everybody needs to be called to the table. Y'all sitting back being scared, I'm gonna call you out. So for me, it's not just about that. Tamaya says something earlier, which is another thing that I don't hear enough about, that equally bewilders me. And she was the first person to put it this way many years ago. She was on council, or maybe she was on my show, because she was one of the early supporters of my show and one of my early guests. And she made a point many years ago that I just been running with, and I still think she's right, which is we are very comfortable with talking about concentrated poverty. Oh, we love to give out gift bags. We love to give groceries to homeless people. We love to do, we good at focusing on concentrated poverty, but we miss the mark because we don't talk enough about concentrated wealth. And you are not going to solve the concentrated poverty problem without dealing with the concentrated wealth problem, which is far more problematic because they got all the money. Those are the people that support campaigns. And I get why it's more difficult to deal with. But until we find a comfortable space to deal with it and address it in a meaningful way, a lot of what we're talking about is all for naught.
And that I appreciate you saying that, Nate, because that's something that, Nathan, I really feel strongly about, and I've been talking about for a long time. And that's part of the reason why when we started out, when you were talking about moving up the square, it's like they won't they will not cede anything. Like, people love to talk about equity until they know what equity looks like. When I love equality, but when you start talking about I got to give something up, that changes everything, because that's what, in essence, what equity is in terms of like power and ceding, wealth. And if we really want to, I remember like years, y'all know what I'm talking about, like when they have the Urban League or this Community Action Agency and all these agencies that primarily support Black people, gave us budget classes to death when I was growing up. Like, and how much are you going to budget $10 an hour? You can't budget. There's more month than money. So it's like this thing of like, we know who holds the power. We know who holds the money. We talked about 3CDC. We talked about these corporations. But the fact of the matter is, the disinvestment, the true investment of public transportation, to your point earlier, TNT, if we really invest in transportation the way we're really supposed to, if we really invest in housing the way that we are supposed to, then it's a whole new ball game. So y'all know, for my economists and people who are a little bit on the nerdy side, we all grew up, learning about the invisible hand, right? Adam Smith, the invisible hand, which essentially is like the market. So the saying goes like the invisible hand controls the market. So basically you can only charge what the market allows. You can only do these things that the market allows you to. So if I own an apartment building and I'm renting, the market says, like, really, I can make a profit at $1,500 a month or $1,200 a month or $1,000 a month. But if the market says I can charge $2,000 a month, I'm going to charge $2,000 a month because that's what the market tells me I can do. But even though I can still make, I can create sustainable margins at a lower rent, I'm not going to. And so the challenge is, why would someone give up any sort of power, economic prowess if no one's making them do so? So yeah, like these places they thrive off of poverty. They live, a lot of these spaces, a lot of these organizations, a lot of these nonprofits in our area, there's no money in solving the issue, but there's certainly money in perpetuating it. And so that's why a lot of times we're not going to see the results we need, and people are not going to get what they need, because if I'm beholden to stakeholders and my goal is to maximize the profits, and I'm getting rewarded for that through tax breaks from DC, there's an ecosystem, economic ecosystem here in effect that people don't talk about enough. So when you talk about, Nathan, blaming the state, I blame the state, but I also blame capitalism for, the issues, the challenges that we're having in terms of people not getting what they need, or the disinvestment, or moving money from one place to another. So my thing is, if I ask you if you show me your budget, I'm gonna show you what you care about every single time.
100.
I agree. I'm sorry, I stepped away for just a second. I was grabbing some tea. I'm a little under the weather. Yeah, I agree with you. Wasn't that MLK who said that budgets are moral documents, or a budget speaks to the morality of the people that create it? I 100% agree with that, for sure. And again, my approach is, we seem to be at a crisis point. Let me put myself on the screen here. Everybody should be called to the table. Nobody is absolved. I don't care the state, everybody, every element of the fabric of what makes our Cincinnati work should be pulled into the bright light of public attention, and they themselves should be re-examining what they're doing, how they're doing it, because clearly something isn't working. Now, at the same time, somebody says something in the chat about Mo Brown. He writes, Black crime plays into the current narrative of the MAGA supporters and politicians, so why would they change it? And that goes back to something that TNT and I think Cam said as well. You say you can't wait for the election to be over, and I'm here to tell you, sadly, this ain't never over. This is a whole new environment. This does not end with the election. This does not end until one side wins. It's over with. The election is convenient, it's important, but you're dealing with people who are thinking generationally. Don't you just see what happened with the Supreme Court and the makeover of our federal system? This was something that took place 50 years ago. So we got to start thinking, whoever needs to start thinking 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line, because that's what other people are thinking. They're thinking beyond just this election. They're thinking to the next election, thinking 10 years down. So no, this is never going away. Even after the election, every time I fear that there is a tragedy involving any kind of gun violence is going to be magnified. I don't know if I'm right about this, but I fear that there are forces out there that are using it for a nefarious and political purpose that doesn't necessarily benefit the overall well-being of Cincinnati citizens. I hope I'm wrong. It's just my opinion. And
but I think in
we
light
shall
of
see.
all of that, though, in light of hearing you say that, you know, and so we obviously know that there's a problem. Well, that's why I believe that our city government got to make sure that their ducks are in a row. If we know that this is never going away, if we know that, you know, these are issues that are going to persist, we got, you know, what I like to call on Twitter, ambulance chasers, a bunch of people that's trying to get clicks and, you know, trying to go viral and things like that. Well, if we know that that's taking place, we need a city administration that's responding to the people and that is putting things in place so that we can combat all this narrative that we're seeing, you know, because if it's not going away, then I'm going to need my mayor to step up. I'm going to need him to defend us, make sure they ain't moving government square, but also, you know, defending and protecting us, you know, and not throwing his hands up and saying, or his or her hands up and saying that, you know, this is just the way of the world now. You know, I still expect my leaders to do what I pay them to do.
Yeah, I would just say on Nathan's point, this is why I'm saying he talked about long-term strategies. And the Republicans have been working on a 50-year plan to get to where they are right now. And their plan now is to consolidate power in such a way by changing laws, by gerrymandering maps, by doing certain things that it is going to be next to impossible for you to get the kind of change that you want. And so they don't have to listen to the average citizen. They can do what they want because all they got to worry about is their primary opponent, not who they got to look at in the general election. And I think we're rapidly moving to a state in this country where we are going to have more definitively red states and blue states. And people who are going to want to enjoy certain rights and live a certain way are going to have to live in a blue state. And people who want certain rights and certain things are going to have to live in a red state. That's where we're going. Because right now, the Republicans have things on lock as far as it pertains to the overall state government and a lot of the things that we've been complaining about today. And it's largely because of gerrymandering. I said it when we talked about guns, whether we're talking about gerrymandering itself. The majority of Ohioans have even voted for difference. And what have they done? They've ignored it. They continue to do what they want to do. I talked about what they're doing. They're stacking the deck on the Supreme Court. They have a Republican who is running against a Democrat. He's his term ain't even up, but so they can get a full Republican Ohio Supreme Court, he's running against the Democrat. These are the types of tactics that I'm talking about. Like a lot of this conversation and stuff that we have and is going to be moot because there's not going to be anything that voters can do because they got it on. They've locked it up. That's the game that they're playing. And to TNT's point, it is going to take people rallying. Look, the thing you can't get around is that the people are going to have to step up and do it in such large numbers that it is undeniable, right? And people are going to have to inform themselves beyond what they get in the media. I've said this throughout the entirety of my career. If you're relying on the Inquirer, Channel 9, MSNBC, CNN, if that is your sole source of information and how you're making your decisions, then that's not smart. I would tell that to anybody. Do your own. You can't be lazy and then complain about the results. You can't blame other people for what you don't know. You got to take your life, your future, your country, your state, your city in your hands. And the best way to do that is to show up, is the vote, is the protest, is the boycott. Use whatever means you have at your disposal. But the problem is, it's easier to blame. It's easier.
But
let me be clear about something, bro, because I want to make sure before I roll here. You know, my critiques on the media are not because of you. This is just me.
No, I'm not, Nathan. That's the thing I think you mistake when I talk.
I'm just clarifying.
Speaking passionately, I'm not speaking about myself.
But I'm not mistaken. I want to let me finish my thought. I'm not mistaken. I just want to clarify. I want people to know where I'm coming from. It's not because, well, it's a little bit. I'm just saying it's a little bit because I want to stir the pot just a little bit. But no, it's just me. I've always even when I'm on my digital show, I've always been a media critic. I always had my eye on trends in the media and how it reflects, political and social reality. So, this is bigger than just this conversation or even this podcast for me. It's just ingrained in me. So I want to make sure the audience, if not you and everybody else, is very clear about that.
Hey man, I'm game. I've said it a few times.
I already
game.
know.
We can do a whole podcast on just
we're going to
and thoughts about the media. I mean, I have been a critic. Look, I'm Black. Part of the reason why I got into the media was because of the things that I saw in media that negatively affected Black people and those voices not being representative. I've spent a career not only trying to represent those voices myself, but bring those voices to the table. So I'm not above criticizing the media and the work that the media does. I'm not here to suggest that they're perfect, but I also think there's more. It's like in any profession, man. If you work in it, you know more about how it's actually happened than what it looks like to the average person out there. And I have so many people roll up on me with these nefarious, clandestine ideas about how things happen or what gets in the paper. And I'm telling them, it ain't that deep. It ain't that deep, bro. It really ain't. It's because somebody messed up or somebody wasn't on duty or whatever. It wasn't like some nefarious plot from the tops of Gannett Corporate to put somebody on the front page of the Inquirer, bro. It ain't that deep. I'm here to tell you. It's not. And so that's the only thing I try to bring to the table when we discuss.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I got to call out Brother Dre. Brother Dre, I listen, if y'all don't watch Curse Breakers, man, y'all miss it. I like Curse Breakers, man. He just so authentically him, and I love your voice, man. I genuinely do. People should check him out on his Facebook page. And then he does something on Mondays too, right?
Yeah, Make It Make Sense Monday.
Make sense Monday. And then because he's 30-year police officer, man, like I told you before, publicly and privately, I don't have that. But you know what, man? I don't think that Fiji, and I know you are strongly like Fiji has to go, AvTab has to go. I don't think that AvTab leaving or Fiji leaving would change anything that we see other than some tough talk. Like you can get somebody come down here and tough talk, but tough talk, what does that do? Tell me why I'm wrong about that, Brother Dre.
Well, really, you wrong is the same way that we just seen with the quarterback situation with the Bengals. Browning was horrible. He was terrible. I mean, you may have some players, but look what just happened. Then Flacco comes in, and they said immediately the energy in the entire town changed. Flacco all of a sudden changed the perception, and just within, they said that week he comes in, and the first half didn't do so well, but then second half he started to see some things that they were competitive against Green Bay. And then all of a sudden, we just saw what he would do last night with the same line that Burrows has. So we started to see experience and know-how and perception change a whole game because the right quarterback was back there with the same players that Browning had. So we got to keep it real on experience and somebody that can come in and change the needle immediately. Plus, when you have things brand new, and somebody who has that perception and knows what they're doing, people will have that energy to start to get behind it. Why? Because winners win. And now we're all of a sudden having a great attitude about the Bengals because why? Flacco, what they say, has seen it all. He knows things that other people don't know. He even said, man, give me he said T. Higgins. He said, man, these guys Chase are incredible. Man, I'm about to do something with this right here. Now look what he's doing with the players around him. So if you give us a city leader, the right chief, guaranteed he sits at the table, people gonna sit up and go, okay, let's go. This person knows what they're talking about. Navigate the troops correctly, because nothing is worse than a terrible leader. And we all know that going forward. That's why Fiji has to go. And even if AvTab is in place, get the right chief that's in place, because this is ridiculous, and we need that strong voice at the table. Because look at her, look how she looks as a leader. Are you going to lead me into battle? Are you going to lead me to the finish line? No. No, you're not. I'm not going into war with you. You can barely grab your gun and can't even see it. There should be a fitness standard to the chief. If there's one for me, there should be one for the chief. Come here, and if you're gonna practice what you preach, then come in here and do what's right.
Are
That's
you
where I'm at
You-
with it.
are
You
you
gotta
attacking her
have-
physically? I just want to be clear. Are you going after her appearance? I'm just trying to understand what
I'm
you're
going after. I'm going after the whole physical statue of her not handling her business. And point blank, she's out of shape. She doesn't lead the troops accordingly. And if
saying.
you're gonna be our quarterback,
You
if you're gonna
negated
quarterback it,
you
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 gotta come
negated,
correct
you
overall.
negated everything you said because you attacked her. Like that ain't cool. That ain't
Now see, we're not gonna put it in
I
that.
got a question for Brother Dre.
Here's what I would say about
I
what
got a
Brother
question.
Dre said. That I agree. Like just attacking her physical appearance. Because look, I mean, let's just say it. Chief Isaac wasn't exactly the.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say the same
I
thing.
said the same thing
I
about him.
want you to get mad at me, Chief. I hate that I had to use you as an
love
example,
Elliot.
but I'm only bringing it
him.
up because Brother
Me
Dre
too.
brought it up. I ain't trying to attack you, brother. I'm just saying that if we're going to use the same standard for the lady, we have to use the
I
same
said the
standard.
same thing
That's-
about
Now
Chief.
the
I said the
truth
same
has
thing
the only
about
thing y'all
Chief
gonna say?
Isaac.
Are you a
That's
head
That's the
what I
only
said
thing
about
y'all
Chief
gonna
Isaac.
say.
I got a
No,
question.
I got other things to say, but I just that was I was like, okay, like I know Chief DG, but I don't know her like super well and in terms of her capacity as a chief. But it's given peak head Seth. It's given there's so many things wrong with what you said. And then comparing the Bengals, like I get it, like who they, but the Bengals and the Bengals are not in the same room as it relates to like the police department. Like I get the
Thank
analogy,
you.
I get you, but I just was like, that's not even they ain't even in the same room with one another, respectfully, Dre.
I bet,
Hey, as
Kevin, I
somebody
bet you
who
like
has
that
a
analogy, didn't you,
Come on,
though,
really
Kevin?
analogy, I'm gonna give
Hold on.
Brother Dre that.
Kevin, you
Give
like
me
that
that.
analogy, didn't you?
I did.
I know you did.
I loved it. I ate it up. I ate it up.
It was
Dre.
a
I ate
terrible
it up.
analogy. Let me
Okay,
break this
okay.
down. It was terrible. Go
I
go
got
ahead, Cam. You go ahead.
I just had one question for Brother Dre. Brother Dre, do you support repealing issue 5?
Yes, let me tell you why. I do. And the reason is you can't just have a mayor city manager make that one vote. That's a too powerful of a position to have one person have sole control over who the chief is. You at least need council to weigh in on that and vote. That is a extremely strong position, just like she fired Michael Washington. The city manager did that on her own. And if you notice how the mayor said, well, I'll leave the chief's decision to the city manager. One person to have that type of power should not have control. But I like the fact to go out and to search for other chiefs. I think that is great. But to just have one person have that power is a disaster. A lot of people should weigh in on that. I would love to see a chief go to not just one, say, here's a town hall, go to other communities, sit down in community, see how this person actually reacts within the communities and see how their temperature is with dealing with the public, not just say downtown. So it's a big rule of thumb. I think the most prominent leaders in the city should have a voice at the table who votes in our new chief.
Yeah.
But is that the sole problem? It's just like you feel like the police department doesn't feel like they had a voice in selecting their leader. Like
No, they didn't.
you keep expounding on morale. And
They
I'm just
didn't.
thinking, like, what can this chief do differently, or what can another chief do differently in these moments or whatnot? Does she not advocate enough for you? Is it like, or is it just more or less? It's just more or less people don't like her. I mean, you can find things to say and things to like.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a great point.
But is it just mainly morale that is the issue?
No, it's morale, it's leadership, it's how she navigates. I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Chief James Craig, when he came in here for just a couple years, he put the city on a great atmosphere. He changed things in his time. If you notice, before Chief James Craig came here, we all wore white blouses and in the pants. Chief Craig came in here and said, that's ridiculous. He said, you know what? We're getting rid of that. We're going to the navy blue because of the darker uniforms. And he said, your white hats, he said, you don't have to wear those all the time. Put them to the side. Oh, you guys got the beard. You know what? Everybody can get the beard. So he started stumping a lot of old traditions that we had with few past chiefs who were allowing foolishness, and the morale was down. Fiji gets back in and starts to kill it. Now, you had Isaac who came in and he was just pretty much steady flow. If it's not broke, I'm not gonna fix it. And he just tried to ride it out in the process. But we have to have steadiness across the board and strong leadership to respect. If you don't even respect the person that's there, and there was another female. Let's be clear on this. Lieutenant Colonel Davis, who's now a chief at Texas, she was in the selection, female white, and you had Fiji. So there, we sat back and we overwhelmingly said we want Lisa Davis. We said we want Lisa Davis, and they chose a city manager went the other route against the majority of the. I'm talking about 89-90% of the police department said go with Lisa Davis, and she went the other route. That's my point. So it was still a female, but we all wanted Lisa Davis because her community activity, she understood community relations, had great rapport with people, and now she's a chief in Texas doing great.
Hey, there are a couple of things that Dre said that I kind of want to address and maybe even challenge, starting with his analogy. Hey, bruh, maybe instead of calling it an analogy, next time just say it's a parable, because Jesus used parables. He used unlike situations to try to explain higher heavenly things so people could get it. So that's why I like the analogies, because I understand that you're not doing an apples to apples comparison, but it's a larger conversation about leadership and losing the people who report to you and getting the best use out of your resources. I felt you on that. Look, Chief Fiji, I think, and I don't know, you have to take the word of the officers who report to her. I'm not on the inside of the police department, so I can't speak to morale or how she leads or how other officers perceive her. I will have to defer to that. What I will say is I think she is a casualty of what I talked about this brawl fallout. And I said this a few podcasts ago. I said, it's interesting that people are going after the mayor, they're going after the city manager, but I didn't see a whole lot of people questioning the police chief because to me, it's kind of like, if you got an issue with crime and what's going on, like she's the one who was hired to handle that. So I would be looking at her first before I would be looking at the city manager or the mayor as to, why are we not moving the needle? Now, again, I have to say, if you look at the statistics overall, crime is down. So you have to have this conversation about, is she, as far as that goes, in terms of what the main measurement of what she's supposed to do, basically, Dre, to use your analogy, wins and losses, right? If you have more wins, considerably more wins than you have losses, even if the team hates you. I think Bill Belichick wasn't exactly seen as the great, if we follow in that, he wasn't seen as the most player-friendly coach, right? But he won championships. And so when you look at Fiji, you got to look at, is the results that she's having outside of these last few months, which we all have to admit have been a little bit off the chain. And is that an anomaly, or is that more reflective of the overall job that she's done? I think if you want to do a fair analysis and not simply be a prisoner of the moment, I think a fair analysis of her job would be that, to not just necessarily have a knee jerk to these last 2 or 3 months, but to look at the overall body of work. What's she been in the job for, 2-3 years? So yes, morale is important, Dre, it is. And how do people think about you is important. But what is more important than even that is the results, right? I can kind of overlook not being liked by the majority of people if the main job I hired you to do is getting done, which is making Cincinnati safer. So then you got to work with that person. Maybe that's why she was at the police chief's conference. Maybe she was getting some people skills training. I don't know. That's how you train up your employees to help them get better. But I think she is a prisoner of the moment. I think she is the latest casualty of the post-brawl phenomenon. Not that she shouldn't be questioned, for how things are going. And it seems like she's been responsive in terms of trying to put together a plan. Now, I agree. Press conference. She's not the model of what you want to, and I don't mean this physically. I'm just talking about in her presentation. It doesn't, for me, as somebody who studies and watches these things, it doesn't speak strength to me when I watch her in those situations. And so,
let me throw a name at you. Let me throw a name at you.
Okay, and then we got Sister Iris on with us, but go right ahead, Brother Dre.
Okay, now I'm gonna say this in much respect, because of what happened. But Sarah Herringer, and the death of Patrick Herringer, that's what started to bring exceptional light to the crime and situations of how the police chief was handling it, because she got a spotlight to challenge the numbers, and she got an independent analysis to challenge all the numbers and the statistics, and she was extremely vocal. So when you have that put in place, and now you got this high beam on exactly what's going on with crime and her being able to move the needle. I even did a video saying, I don't care that she's white. Now she's bringing information that and exposing how things are being ran, and she had the competition and the resources to be able to show that the numbers that the mayor and chief are showing are wrong. If you notice, after he was senselessly murdered, now all of a sudden they started being transparent more and trying to show things on TV. And every time they did it, she completely diffused it by showing other numbers. And this is why if you lose out on trust from leadership, you're in trouble. I mean, and the trust factor has been destroyed on that level, and she can't get it back at this point. And so, yeah, does politics play involved? Absolutely. The mayor's going to have to do something, especially if you got Jeff Ruby now complaining and saying, hold on, we got some issues going on. So you got some powerful people now that's saying you got to at least do something in place. And if she's going to be the one that's going to get hit, hey, I've been saying this long before this happened. So I've been consistent across the board.
Yeah, hey, that's good. That's good information. But here's what the other thing I wanted to say about getting rid of issue 5. I have concerns about that job in particular becoming, I think it's already a political job, but I think allowing more of the politicians to get involved in who our police chief is and having a vote, I think that only muddies the waters a little bit more. I think maybe the intention of giving that control to the city manager was to attempt to try to get that particular job out of the hands of the politicians, where it becomes particularly political, because you just talked about it. Hey, if I'm the mayor and Jeff Ruby is in my ear, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a political decision, and maybe not necessarily the best decision, because I got to go with the political wins. So I think you got to be careful about that. I'm all for saying, hey, do we need a more inclusive process, a more community participatory process to help us arrive at that decision, or to help the city manager arrive at that decision? I'm all for saying, hey, let's examine the process, and can there be a better process to help the city manager get to that decision? Right. But I don't know if I'm crazy about further politicizing the police chief job, because I think it already is political enough.
We got Iris Rowley on with us. Hey, Iris.
Hey, black man, how are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Iris,
welcome to the conversation. What's going on? What do you have to share?
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And hey to everybody on here. Everybody's having a less chaotic day than I'm having. Of course, y'all know that all of this work as a result of the collaborative agreement has either helped us, hurt us, and we had to reshape it and
revisited in some way. There would have been no Craig without issue 5. So when I hear Ken Colbert talk about issue 5, and even under the issue 5 that we have now, we still hired Fiji. And I heard Brother Dre, and all due respect, and I do respect all of the work that you have done. I respect your giving of however many years to service of being a police officer. I think I told you my husband's great uncle, Uncle Velman, was one of the first Black detectives in the city of Cincinnati. He couldn't carry a gun, nor could he arrest. So policing has been around both of our families for a very long time. I currently have family members who are serving in capacity of that in that particular role. My mother's maiden name is Kennebrew. So I wanted to say that, so that I think that that is why when the Black United Front made a call to action, and our first call to action wasn't the police at that particular time. It was the 14 downtown restaurants closing when the Black people were coming to town, and when we all that we bring the largest amount of revenue to the city of Cincinnati. So much so, the state gets a nice chunk. The city gets a nice chunk, hotels gets a nice chunk, county get a nice chunk, but Black people don't get a nice chunk. So to all of the conversation that you all were talking about, it all goes together. Dear brother, I sat on the committee to hire the police chief through the selection, and it wasn't my first. Craig actually was my first sitting on that under Milton Mahoney. And I can tell you, dear brother, that Lisa Davis, and although I respect her service too, out of the six, either came in fifth or sixth during just the first round, and then we decided to even allow her to sit through the public facing, which had never happened before. But Iris Rowley is pushing that we do have more public participatory process, and the process of who is selected and how that is selected. Then we had two community forums, dear brother Kevin, so that you could weigh in out of the last four who you wanted. So I wanted to be clear process, and so the process included not just city, but it included the community as well. So there were two community sessions held on this selection of this particular police chief, one in Pleasant Ridge and one on the west side. So community had some input on what they wanted to see. And of course, through all of the Freedom Fridays that I've done was to include us in that process. This is where it is. So we have to be able to hear some things too, because I heard my dear sister Tamaya ask, what is the city done against guns, and all the things that I've seen since 2020, because that's when we really started this problem solving project on youth gun violence, is when the two shootings happened in Smell. I was in Wisconsin, and then at that time, Mayor Cranley said, let the MAG figure it out. And I thought, what the hell was he talking about? It takes more than just us. But I saw it as an opportunity to bring some problem solving, to really train the first wave of people at the city level, meaning in the administration, of problem solving, so we wouldn't have this knee jerk that we're seeing today. We're in this because the people that are screaming the loudest, and I think, dear brother Cam, let you know who these folks are that are screaming loudly. I'll say this, just because I got back from Madison, Wisconsin, dear brother Dre, I don't know if you know, we were up for a Goldstein Award, an international award based on the work that we had done on Government Square. But I was in such conflict while in Madison because all this stuff was happening here, and I'm thinking, we ain't done jack. We ain't done jack, because we right back here. We are now going completely backwards. Getting rid of issue 5 is going backwards. All of this force is going backwards. We're not without understanding root causations and making sure you put in the pathway of children, all children, not just non-Black children, but Black children too. The opportunity to fail, but to get better. That's the role of the adults. Because guess who didn't ask to be down at the transit sites? The children, nor the police. Nobody wants this. The police have been downtown forever. They've been looking at it for a long time. So when we hit Government Square, they're like, yeah, thank you. Somebody else is down here to put some soft hands as opposed to some hard hands, because kids can take you there. But as the adults, and because we have this process inside of our collaborative agreement that gives us the opportunity to stop, pause, and think before we do, because we have these crime reduction tools, because we have SEPTED and situational crime design, we can do things differently. It doesn't have to be enforcement.
Hey,
Breaking up.
Iris, your connection is kind of breaking up, so I don't think we're getting.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all.
I can't hear you, Kevin. That was real crazy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's still super choppy.
Yeah, it's
Someone told her to go out and come back in.
yeah. You might want to step out and come back in, Iris. Like log out and log back in. We don't hear anything. Man.
I
Yeah,
think Iris
well,
was making a important point though, and I think it's one of the things that you kind of have addressed in terms of where we are as a country, Nathan. Sort of like this backwards movement, where a lot of the gains that have been made, through some hard fought battles, are kind of being rolled back. Okay, go ahead, Iris. I'm sorry. We were
Can you
just
hear me? I can't see you guys, but I could. Can you hear me, Kevin? Is
we
yeah,
that
can't hear
better?
you.
you're much better. Whatever you're doing, don't mess with that. Leave it right there.
Okay, because I hear some static, but I'm sorry. And if my face is too close, charge it to my old age. Um, but I wanted to say some of the things that I'm hearing, whether it's from the mayor, and from because somebody brought up the state, and they are on point. Is that you, dear brother Nathan, that brought up the state? We owe them an ass kicking. They opened up the door to more chaos, more confusion, more deaths, more trauma. They opened up the door, and yet cutting resources. What is not on the table with the governor is gun laws. Now he wants to give us more tools for police, but not give us anything to help communities understand the violence. It is violent to be hungry every single day. And as I was on Government Square yesterday, I know I spent a good $200 on food because we're still working on getting this thing together called this contract to help feed these children. And these things do work when you do them with intent, when you do them with follow up, and when you do them with care. But I just wanted to weigh in today with so much that you all were talking about, and I'm grateful for it because at least we have our eyes open. What we don't have to fight about is when we have processes that work that can improve systems, we need to utilize them to the greatest extent feasible. There's no one in the city that can say the collaborative agreement has not helped the community, and has not helped us understand how to use better policing tools and strategies so that taxpayers save dollars and so that people lives are saved and that we don't put police in harm's way. And so I just wanted to weigh in on that. I know I've been quiet and trying not to say a lot because every time I say something, people who hate and people who don't want to see change and people who want to just see the status quo are misusing my words, which is calling my family some angst, a whole lot of trauma. My children are worried about their mother. I cannot see my grandkids at my own house because of things that people are saying that you're saying, dear brother Dre, and I hope that it's not true because I would not wish this on anybody's family. I would not wish this on them and their grandkids either. Now we can disagree on some things and it might get heated. But if you were in a battle and I was standing next to you, dear brother, I would be on your side no matter what, just because we got the same melanin in our skin. That's how crazy I am about my people. But I also wanted to let y'all know that if we get stuck in the analysis of the paralysis and we never get to work, we will never get anything done. The last meeting I was in with Sorta Metro, CPD, 3CDC, I was told that the Government Square was not going to be moved. Although I requested that they do move it across the street, put it indoors because it was cold as hell when I started standing February 1st, 2024. I told them that then that to help let the children help them redesign it. There's this thing called crime prevention through environmental design that Cincinnati has used before. We can use these things again. And so we have tools.
I
We
agree.
just have a lot of interference that is not practical, that is not about uplifting Black people because that's how it feels. And we just need to fight all that back, but stay the course and get to the goals at hand. And there's still a lot of work to be done here.
Hey, Iris, I want to ask you a question about something that you said earlier and really just kind of get your take on it. You mentioned you were talking about feeding the kids down there on Government Square, and those who are critical of not just the efforts that you've been doing, but some of these, what Phil likes to call root cause types of programs and things of that nature. Like those are always the targets of critics of crime prevention that, oh, this stuff doesn't work. And as somebody who has worked in that mentoring space myself, I know that everything that you do with young people is not easily digestible into a spreadsheet. But I trust that you all have some data that does run counter to the narrative that what you're doing is not being effective. And my question to you is, I know you have it. because you share some of the information. You share, well, not some, you share a lot of information. But I don't see that being put out, publicized, touted by city council, by the mayor, by others who I would think also know this information. Why isn't there stronger pushback with data and examples and things that say, hey, feeding kids on Government Square or feeding kids in schools, this actually does work. So all of those people who say that it doesn't and laugh at that are wrong.
Yeah, and dear brother Kevin, I'm just a consultant to the city, and I advise all the time to put out the good stuff. And they know that they're getting hammered because they do not put out the good stuff quite as well as the media is putting out the negative stuff, or that we on social media continuously repost the negative stuff. It's very difficult from that end. We should be also. I sent you all the data several times. Like, here it is, here it is, here it is. So we have to be able to protect ourselves. It's not just up to them. We have to protect ourselves because these extreme people who believe that all Black people are bad, and that includes you, even you, dear brother Dre, although you served in the force, that's you still look like you could be my brother. And so this notion that that flipped on us after the brawl, I mean, we knew it was there. We've always known it was there, but the way that it's being touted now, it is incumbent on all of us. That includes you too, Kevin. The Empire ain't posting this good data, and so it should be posting the good things also. Is not being, we don't want good, we're negative. Because I hear Nathan, like, I hear you, Nathan. If you post one more, I mean, the stories on Iris Rowley ran so much, I was sick of her. I'm like, my God, all I've given to this city was the ability to rebuild itself. The entire built itself after the collaborative agreement. It would have not done that if we didn't have the work at the table. So it's there, and I can send it to you. And I'm just one chick trying to continuously make the effort. But now nobody will even believe the numbers reducing the opportunity for crime at Government Square by 67% and reducing arrests by 50, which is the goal of the collaborative agreement. It's both. It's not just police accountability, but it's measures around public safety too. Matter how policing is deployed. We've done some pretty decent things here, but we are collectively, intellectually, and we're being bullied to go backwards. And I think that it's incumbent upon all of us to put the data out. And sometimes people don't know how to read the data. And now you hear people, because I heard the mayor say it at the last debate, and when he said it, well, I was sitting on the wrong side. Brother Dre, you ain't tell me I was in the wrong section. Um, when he said he didn't care about the data, no, 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 no. Everybody cares about data, and we should never get to say we don't, because then the narrative can just be as wild as we hear. The story about the brawl was crazy. It was just insane how it took a life of violence, and we had 250,000 people here. I had the best time of my life that Friday night at the music festival, singing with Earth, Wind, and Fire. I was in heaven, and so to we let that narrative about us continuously go. And so it's there, and we can do it, but we also need to say at the same time, dear brother Kevin, unless brother Dre disagrees with me, policing cannot stop shootings. They can't stop crime. Not by themselves. It don't work like that. And that's the false narrative that people believe, that police can stop it. And they
Can
can't. And it,
I interject
yes,
something here?
yes.
And again, I'm the official pot stirrer, and I like it when it gets hot. But what I say next is in the spirit of bringing people together. And I know the last time you came on with Brother Dre, it got real heated. You brought up Brother Dre a couple times. I wouldn't be me if I didn't say that. I want to give him an opportunity to speak. And again, I'm doing this in the spirit of bringing people together, even perhaps bringing y'all together. I don't know all the details, and it ain't my business. And I
Absolutely.
think a lot of conversations need to happen online, but we online right now. You both here, so I just wanted to give him a floor to say what he got to say. His name got brought up a few times. I got great respect for both of you, and so I just want to give Brother Dre to let him say whatever he want to say. I ain't just
I
putting it out
started
there.
off with I started out with thank you, dear brother Dre. So I want you to make sure you hear that.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. First of all, thank you, Iris, for your words. Thank you for your passion. I appreciate you. If you remember, and this is the deep part that people may not know, when you first even started going through your journey. I had met with you on Langdon Farm and setting your business, and I said, if I become Sentinel president, we're gonna tear this city up. And I'm glad you're shaking your head so people know that we do have history. And when FOP did come at you, I was one of the few that stood in your corner. That when Gerhard Stein was in front and we were in back to support you. And it's just crazy that people don't know that in my 30 years almost of service that I've only been part of the Sentinel organization for 4 years. I've been out of them ever during that history. Why? Because they sat down and just did nothing and did not speak out. Just like right now, it's amazing that you're having these conversations and your vocal power and information in the Sentinel organization is nowhere to be found. If you had black officers who to support you,
That's
even
concerning.
in this process, we may not even be having this conversation. And so I know the most dangerous thing is that people will see, and Kevin can agree, and even Nathan, is that if Andre Ewing and Iris Rowley hooks up, that's a lot of trouble in the city because I know the police side and how they think and can maneuver in this particular journey. I just believe that as we continue to move forward, there is some things that I believe police cannot do it by themselves. I've always been an advocate of community relations and making sure we come together. Even when they attacked you about your son, I actually defended it. I said, "Hey, I don't see nothing
You did.
wrong if she wants to help her son out who may have been incarcerated, can't get no jobs over here. Why can't she do that?" So I was all for that. I think that in just the spirit of the process, that there's a lot of misunderstandings in social media, words that are spoken. And if me and you can sit at the table, and if we can talk, and I can use my platform to get even a better understanding of the collaborative, and I'll be able to present that even to the police officers and say, hold on, this is what it really is about. Because I've been telling people, no, we're not going to get rid of collaborative, but we need more understanding. And now with the work that you have done and you don't have the proper support, you're going to need someone else to at least assist you in this journey. And I've said it before, I'm not here to take sides. I'm here to save lives. And I know you about saving lives. So we're on the same page of saving lives. We just got to get at the table, hear each other out, and make it happen.
And I appreciate that, dear brother Dre, and I appreciate that bigger piece too. Yeah, and all those things are very true. So you did come. We did have conversation. They wanted assistance from Black United Front with the police department, and I can't remember. I can't remember because I've done so much. It's insane. Um, and also when the Sentinels did have a press conference for me because we were going through the same thing with President Dan Hills attacking the collaborative, and this is around Judge Tracy Hunter, the day that she was sentenced and they drug her out of the courtroom. We went to Junker's house and we protested. And Dan Hills wanted me off of the volunteer work at that time. I've been volunteering for 22 years for my community on this work and all of its whatever the possibilities are. So yes, those things did occur, and I appreciate and I thank you for that. And I know that we are collectively all traumatized by the systems that oppress us. I get that, and I get that the conditionings that we all have had been through, to not want to fight together, not want to love each other, hell, not even love ourselves. So I appreciate everything you said, dear brother Dre. That's why I don't now I can't remember what we if it was just the brawl that we were coming off of, but also the killing of Ryan Hinton was still on my year old grandson. So all of these things that are impact us, and even though as we fight, we're still human beings. So yes, all those things occurred. It was some more stuff I wanted to say today, y'all. It's just it's but what I will say to this. Just in the spirit of trying to figure out from the federal level, state level, and the city level, what we are going to do. That's going to take collective strategy and collective thought about what we need to do. And especially for our children and our elders, going to that we come into a room and we have a seat streets, and we can't always make things public about which way we are going to go. And yes, we need the knowledge of people like dear brother Dre that knows the inside. And I've been around a long time, but I don't know what he knows about all bureaus of policing, and why is it important that the transparency and the equity and the fairness reside in policies, procedures, and guidelines. And that's what the work of the collaborative gives us. It institutionalizes fairness so that it never goes away. It tracks how accountability should be shown. Someone posted my invoice and they pointed to the organizing I did last year to have our second community police conference in the city. And I couldn't even gauge how that one went, although I got great feedback from people. Iris, this is the best. Heck, I was in Virginia. Somebody was like, girl, I was at that police accountability conference that you gave. But because of all of the chaos and the noise, and I'm trying to track and measure what is good, what's bad, and what do we change. And so when your focus is diverted, you can't even see. And so I know that if I'm unfocused, then collectively we all are, and we're taking our eyes off the prize. The prize are our children. So when I put out another notice, and the president of the FOP, got upset with that I'm asking for help, because historically we know that children and police alone can be problem. There's been an increase in police presence, so there should be an increase in community presence. And I'm getting very frustrated and tired with folk believing that because we're almost 25 years out, the policing has changed that much. It hasn't. I can still show you the data, and that's what I resent. That's where I rest in, is the data. So when I'm talking with whomever the police chief is, whatever they look like, I need to make sure the process of selecting them is fair. And yes, Kevin, to make sure that community is engaged and involved. If you can think of any additional ways to make that happen, please let me know, dear brother, and you can be in charge of that committee. I will just make sure I'm gonna make sure you are signed as a Black United Fronter, so we know your intent is gonna be about the class and making sure that there's equity and transparency. So let's do it. Let's roll. This is how these things should get done.
So let me say this, Iris. Let's get together on that data that you got, and we can see about how we can get some of that data out there so that it's more public. I mean, I think those of us who know you and who've been around you for a long time know the work that you've done. And there are a lot of people who are around this city, who are doing a lot of good things. But the reality is we need more. I know how overworked and overburdened you are in doing what you do, and you shouldn't have to carry a lot of that, all of that weight by yourself. And I think that there's more involvement that we can all, contribute to trying to help solve these issues. Is not just enough to sit back and comment on it, but I think we all got to look at, what more can we do to take part, in positive change in Cincinnati. But I love to see, this is what just happened between you and Dre is what Nathan and I envision Hot Mic being, not just this show where we get on and we talk about issues. And certainly, as you said, it gets heated. We've been heated today. Me and Nathan go at it all the time. I was going at it with Michelle, but in the family that I grew up in, we all loved each other and we argued hard against each other, and it wasn't pretty all the time, but at the end of it, we were still family.
Yeah.
And the reality is all of us got a piece of the puzzle. I mean, I think the mistake that we make sometimes is that any of us can make is to sit back and think we got it all figured out. That I think or my way is the 100% right way, and can't nobody else be right.
Speak for yourself, Kevin.
The reality
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself, Kevin.
The reality is we all got a little. We all got a
Kevin, my phone is up. I want to say two last things. So my team is operating like they are TSA, as if the government is shut down. And because of all of this interference, now here's the real interference. We've not been able to get the necessary documents in order. Continues. My guys are working anyway. They are at the transit sites. Oldest child, whom the story was written about, which it's okay, because this.
I think your phone is dying. We lost your audio and your video, Iris.
Yeah. Hey Iris, put it in the chat and we'll read, you know, if we have time.
I would say something real quick. I had saw a comment from Mo Brown, and he had asked, "Where's juvenile court?" Juvenile court has data, and they're not at the table. And I've been saying the same thing. I mean, we need our juvenile court judges and magistrates at the table in this conversation as well. And I hope to see more collaboration about that down the road. I would love to see Judge Kerry Bloom involved and engaged with what's going on. I hope someone is, reaching out to her.
Hey, Brother Dre, when you said Brother Dre and Iris Rowley coming together, I almost burst out in tears, man. I'm super emotional. I wear my emotions on my sleeve and don't make no bones about it. I would love that, bro. So I'm not trying to get in anybody's business or pick sides here. I got great respect for both of you, as I said to both of you separately, privately, and publicly. So I hope that I don't know how things work. Maybe that could be the start of a better relationship, even if that's the right way to put it. I don't profess to have any track or insights into what your relationship already is, but I just want to state what my opinion about it is. And like Kevin said, we came together with the pod. I mean, that's part of it. Yeah, it's going to get heated. We're going to be spicy and divergent points of view, but there's a reason why I use that family matters, man, because black, white, whatever, we all live in Cincinnati. We all humans. We all family. We might disagree. We might go hard. I might be pissed. Doesn't really happen too much, but at the end of the day, we all Cincinnatians. We all humans, and we all just want the same thing, right? We got family that we love, and if we can agree on that, then that's all that really matters.
But more importantly than that, go ahead, Brother Dre.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man, just coming from a spiritual background as well, man, and praying on the matters. I'm not trying to be sensational in this moment, but I pray that at some point Iris and I could talk, however the situation may be. And no matter what people's faith or what have you, I always say that God can set it up, but we can mess it up. And this was a setup that God had orchestrated to give us another opportunity. That there might have been a lot of people that say, they was going off and they was going off. But won't you talk about the same thing that what Brother Dre and Iris, man, had a civil conversation, and if they end up linking up to the better cause of our people, man, this can be powerful across the board. That the first thing we need to do is talk and communicate, and this for individuals that's been married, you'll learn this, Brother Cam, and communication. But just because my wife can talk a certain way, I may hear her differently. So I need to make sure I say, what did I hear you say? And please say it back to me so I can hear you talk and not listen to you, to where we would even put a phone down and say, here's a 2-minute split of conversation. I wouldn't say a word, and then I would say back to her what I thought she said, and she would make sure she corrected. So I appreciate this situation. I never want any harm to come on anybody. And social media, man, it stirs the pot up in a lot of ways. But as God is my witness in what I know as a believer, and I know how the enemy deals with separation, and he's a master of separation. So if we come together and show unity, it's a dangerous game for the enemy, and it starts here. So I appreciate that. That was an awesome conversation, and I wanted to continue past this podcast.
Hey man, that's great. I love that, man. And what I was gonna say is, I know you, Brother Dre. I know your heart. I know what kind of man and person you are. I also know Iris, and I know her heart. I know what kind of person she is. And I think that's what we got to continue to just focus on is, and I get it. Sometimes we know some people better than we know others. And I know better than anybody that whether it's something somebody on this podcast says or something that, gets said in the media, people are often reduced to a soundbite, and people make all kinds of assumptions about who somebody is based on what they thought, to your point, what they thought they heard them say. Right. And that's always the struggle that we all face, is that when we speak, we want to make sure that people understand exactly what it is that we're saying. But the way the communication goes, especially in this social media environment, people don't do a great job of listening with the intention of really trying to understand what people are saying. They're listening only long enough to come back with what they can say to what they think you're saying. And so, I appreciate what you and Iris did there and what we try to do all the time on this pod. Glad that we could be a platform to facilitate that. And, we're gonna keep bringing it though. We're gonna still continue to have the hot mics and the hot takes and the conversations. But as Nathan always says, it's in love, brother, because we're all trying to get to the same place. I don't think anybody that we've had on this podcast, maybe with the exception of my man Kevin. I think, and I'm kind of having a little bit of fun with that. But I think we all want to try to get to the same place, and that's what we got to remember.
Yes, I'm trying to get that to that Tupac Biggie heaven. That's what I'm trying to get to. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, we went way over normally. Yeah. I really appreciate you, Cam. Thanks for coming on. Any last words? Give you the last word.
Hey, I thank you for inviting me on. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm usually hanging out in the comment section, so it's cool to be up front and see this love from my elders really take place. I'm learning from y'all, and I want to grow, as a person and as an activist. So it's cool to see, my elders really, do this. I think as young folks, as I am young still, we have to see this, and so it's really good for me to see this, and I hope to be back soon.
You said elder, and I suddenly like you a whole lot less.
It's a respect thing, brother.
Now, if he called you Unc, that would have been. That would have took it to a whole
nother. I don't get Unc. I get boss, especially when I wear a certain sunglass. I'm like boss.
Right.
It threw me off a couple times. I told the wife, like, why are they calling me boss? I mean, I'll rock with it, but boss. But I just figured it was respect. I don't know what it is, but I can be called a whole lot worse. So I just left it just like that. Hey, but thank you so much, Cam. Appreciate you. And I'll put you in our email chain, and when you're available, man, and there's a topic you want to talk about, pop on. Love to have you.
Congrats on the nuptials, brother. Congrats on the nuptials.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe we should do a show. I mean, I've been married 25. Kevin, you got how many years in?
18.
18. Brother Dre, how many you got in?
And I got a strong 5, but I've been through the divorce section before, so I can definitely give some counsel on those issues. Because we dealing with
we got nearly 50 years of marriage advice, so maybe we can help you on a show one day or something like that.
Please, I would love it. I would love it.
To the audience, thank you so much for lifting us up. Really appreciate Iris Rowley coming in, Tamaya Dennard coming in, TNT coming in. Thank you so much. Thought we didn't get to a lot of topics, and I kind of figured it might take that kind of thing. I mean, this was like a Cincinnati local current issue type of conversation. Before we roll, though, we got Bengal fans, man. Joe Flacco, what in the Bengals did a great thing, huh? What is going on?
I'm happy and I'm sad.
Now we need UC. We need UC to take care of business this weekend.
That's right. We do. UC. Go UC. Thank you, everybody. And we're planning to be back on Tuesday, 1:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tell a friend about the show. Oh, yeah, Kevin, tell everybody about the Kings.
Hey, yeah, the season opener for the Ohio Kings tomorrow, Saturday, October 18th, 5:30 at Withrow High School. Come on out and check us out. I promise you won't be sorry. Games are only like a couple of hours, so you can still come to the game. You can still get out, get your evening on Saturday or whatever you got plans, whatever show, evening out with your significant other. You can still get to that, but come check out, support these young, talented athletes, these pro athletes that we got out here. It's the best basketball you're going to see in Cincinnati. I'm telling you right now, no diss on UC, Xavier, or any of the other stuff that they got going on, but this is some exciting basketball, and I think folks are going to enjoy themselves. So come on out. Tickets only $10. Come on out and support the Kings. We love to see you.
Absolutely. Brother Dre, what you got going on? Let the people know.
Hey, just, Mondays make sense Mondays, and of course Thursdays 300. Curse Breakers 300. So, but in between, with everything being hot, sure, you might get a Tuesday and Wednesday in there. So we just gonna keep it on point, keep it real, and I'm looking forward to the things that are happening within this city and the decisions that are going to be made, because we still got it's on the bubble whether or not the chief is still going to be here or not.
And then you didn't mention this, Kevin, but I was listening to Lincoln Ware earlier, and I think he mentioned you're going to be sitting in for him next week. Is that true?
Yeah, Monday and Tuesday I'll be in the hot seat with Lincoln. He's headed out of town for a few days, and so I'll be back in the saddle with an
Nice.
improved performance. You know what I'm saying? With each rep, I promise the audience I'm going to get better. That first time was a learning experience. Learned a lot, so it's on Monday. Expect a better product.
Hey, locking horns with me gonna sharpen your knives to deal with that Lincoln Wear audience. So last time you only did
That's what a couple of people said. They was like, "Come on, Kev, you need to mix it up with the callers."
Oh.
They like, "I see you on hot mic. You ain't got no problem getting loose." They like, "You uptight," and I admit it, I was nervous. I was nervous that first time in there, so I couldn't really get loose like I wanted to because I was trying to make sure. You just don't want to drive the man's show off a cliff, and do nothing crazy. So,
you did a great job. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be in the comment section, man, having some fun with you. And the people are about to learn what we and I already know. They're gonna love it. So check him out Monday and Tuesday. I think he even said something like Wednesday. He might try to rope you in for Wednesday too.
He was trying, but I got a conflict on Wednesday. Okay. I don't think I'm gonna be able to. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do Wednesday.
All right, so check them out. And thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate you. Have a great weekend. I wish you nothing but peace and blessings. Hope you got great health. And we'll be back with you on Tuesday at 1:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great